Chapter 327. When Lu Wan put down the phone, Fang Yixing came out of the study with a scroll of Wu Kaizi's 13 masterpieces of calligraphy and painting. Seeing Lu Wan's expression, he asked, "Is it that brat?" Lu Wan looked at Fang Yixing unkindly and said, "What brat? He's your son." "Humph, I don't have such a son." Fleeing in the face of battle, avoiding battle, cowardly and fearless of death, shameless and shameless, was this a man of the Fang family? He is even worse than a woman. I, Fang Yixing, can't afford to lose my face. Fang Yixing shouted angrily. Speaking of his good-for-nothing son, he was angry. Humiliation, it was a humiliation as big as the heavens. How could he do such a thing? How could he run away on the day of the competition? If he couldn't beat others, he should let them beat him. He had been beaten before. Why did he run away? Why did he run away? From the day Fang Yan ran away, Fang Yixing felt that he had lost all his face. He could no longer straighten his back and raise his head to look at others. "Fang Yixing, you really raised a good son." "Ha, he ran away." "Fang Yixing, didn't you say your son went to take a bath and change clothes?" "I'm afraid he won't come out for a year and a half. Should we continue to wait?" "Old Fang, your son, is clever. Ordinary people can't do this." Thinking of the ridiculing faces of the Fang family and the crazy smiles of his friends when they talked about his son, Fang Yixing had an impulse to catch Fang Yan and beat him to death. He not only lost his face but also the face of the ancestors of the Fang family. When the old man heard that Fang Yan ran away before the competition, the person who had been paralyzed for many years stood up from the wheelchair, and then fell to the ground. Now he still had the face to come back? And he still had the face to call back? "Fang Yixing, are you done?" Lu Wan shouted angrily. Lu Wan inherited her father's stubbornness and her mother's kindness. In addition, she was nurtured in a scholarly family for many years, so she was gentle and rarely got angry with others. She was like the character Wan in her name. However, when she encountered something that she thought she must persist in, the energy she burst out was also amazing. For example, everything about her son Fang Yan. Fang Yixing looked at his wife Lu Wan in surprise, frowned and asked, "What did that brat say to you again? Is it reasonable for him to skip class and run away?" "What did he say?" "He said he wasn't going home for the Lunar New Year. He said he wanted to spend the Lunar New Year with his grandma in Huacheng. Wasn't it all because of you? He was afraid that you were still angry with him. He was afraid that you would be sad and disappointed with him. Look at you, what have you done to the child all these years? How did I oppress him? I'm doing this for his own good." "Are you doing this for his own good? Who is he doing this for? Who did he live for? Why should he suffer so many grievances? Why do you have to shoulder so much pressure?" Lu Wan stared at Fang Yixing fiercely and said, "My son doesn't like to practice martial arts since he was born. What he likes most is reading poems, writing lyrics and flowers. He has the blood of the Fang family in his blood, and half of it is the blood of the Lu family. The Lu family hates fighting and killing the most. But what did you do? You forced him to practice his stance and he stood there for hours. If he couldn't finish the task, he was punished. The punishment was to stand for a longer time. When he was a little older, he was asked to learn boxing. When his hands were red and swollen, he was not allowed to rest for a day." Fang Yixing knew that his wife was really angry. He explained in a low voice, "He can't rest. Once he rests, all his previous efforts will be wasted. He can only get through the hurdle in one go." "Yes, you are his father. You said he can't rest, so he can only continue to practice. After standing for a while, he will practice boxing. After boxing, he will practice palm, sword, plum blossom steps. He will learn all the things you asked him to learn. Have you ever asked for his opinion? Do you know if he really likes it? You told him that the Fang family Tai Chi must be inherited by someone. You told him that the Fang family needs someone to bring glory to the Fang family. You told him that you are a descendant of the Fang family, so you must shoulder this burden. What are you doing? Aren't you a descendant of the Fang family? Why don't you inherit the Fang family Tai Chi? Why don't you go and bring glory to the Fang family? You stay in the study all day reading and painting. When the child makes a little mistake, you scold him. Why? You have escaped for your whole life. Can't you allow my son to escape for once?" Fang Yixing opened his mouth, but he found that he couldn't say anything. What she said was so reasonable. He was a descendant of the Fang family and he was Fang Yan's father. If they talked about continuing the Tai Chi to bring glory to the Fang family, shouldn't he go first? What right did he have to push all the responsibilities and obligations onto his own son? Just because Fang Yan was his son? Luan also knew that what she said was too harsh. But for the happiness of the child, she had to correct Fang Yixing's wrong point of view and let him have a new understanding of his son. Fang Yan doesn't like to practice martial arts. But he does it because of your request. Fang Yan longs for freedom most, but he carries that responsibility on his back and walks forward step by step. He has the heart of Tai Chi at a young age. Everyone praises him as a young genius. In Swallow Dock, how many kids are better than our Fang Yan? Did he bring shame to the Fang family? Did he make the Fang family feel disappointed? Who cares about the face of the Fang family more than him? Who cares about the honor of the Fang family more than him? He was beaten by that girl from the Yi family year after year. A young man like him cares about his honor the most. But did he give in? Did he escape? When the heart of Tai Chi suddenly disappeared, who was the most panicked? Who was the most sad? Can you understand the pressure he was under at that time? Have you ever thought about it from his point of view? Why did he stay? For the honor of the Fang family, to show the backbone of the men of the Fang family, to let everyone know that he was not a genius? To let everyone know that his heart of Tai Chi was just a flash in the pan? To let him be beaten again in front of everyone? Fang Yixing, Fang Yan is your son, not our enemy. How can you be so cruel to him? He doesn't even dare to go home now. Do you want me to lose this son? Fang Yixing was silent for a long time. He sighed and said, ask him to come back. What's the use of asking him to come back? He is afraid that you will be angry, not me. What do you want? You call our son and ask him to come back, Luan said. Only if you call him in person will it be effective. The muscles on Fang Yixing's face twitched. That bastard made him lose face and he had to call him to come back for the spring festival? Wasn't this bullying? You don't want to call? If you don't call, I won't call either. Just prepare to lose this son, Luan said stubbornly. You are being unreasonable. Fang Yixing was extremely angry. You are being rude. Although the child died disgracefully, haven't you heard that? His heart of Tai Chi has been revived and it's more powerful than before. Moreover, that Japanese sword god was defeated by him. A few days ago, the old master received congratulatory letters from his old friends, congratulating him for having a good grandson. The old master was very happy and asked me when Fang Yan would come back. I won't call. Fang Yixing said. If you want to call, do it yourself. After Fang Yixing said that, he turned around and walked to the study with the book in his hand. Bang. After the door was closed, Fang Yixing's expression immediately became gloomy. He walked back and forth in the study from left to right and from right to left. He opened the ink box and wanted to write a piece of calligraphy, but he didn't have any interest in picking up the brush. When he threw the brush into the inkstone, a smear of ink flew up and splashed on the back of his hand. When he wiped it with his hand, it became a pool of irregular black stain. Fang Yixing walked to the sofa and sat down. He looked at the telephone on the table and didn't move his eyes for a long time. He reached out his hand, grabbed the phone and was about to dial a number. After dialing 2 numbers, he was irritated and put the phone down. He was restless. Seeing her husband enter the study, Luan was sad. The men in this family were too proud. For the sake of their own face, they even abandoned their son. They were not even willing to call their son. Wasn't such a father too unqualified? Mom, I'm back. A familiar voice suddenly sounded. Luan turned around and saw her son Fang Yan, standing at the door and looking at her with a smile. A delicate face, a shy smile and a piece of snow on his raised eyebrows. Fang Yan? Luan couldn't believe her eyes. Her son just told her on the phone that he wouldn't come home for the spring festival. How did he stand in front of her in the blink of an eye? Mom, it's me. I'm back. Fang Yan patted the snow on his body and strode into the hall. Fang Yingying carried a big box with difficulty. Fang Haohan, who was sweaty, carried a cloth bag and followed Fang Yan into the house. These 2 guys carried the box and walked all the way, but it wasn't as hard as walking from the yard to the door. Luan grabbed her son's hand and asked in surprise, "Didn't you say you were going to spend the spring festival in Huaqing and wouldn't come back?" "Yes. I thought so at first, but after calling you I thought I should come back. You said you would think about it." "Yes. I've thought about it very quickly." "About 2 seconds, Fang Yan said embarrassedly. "You said you should say hello before coming back," Luan said. I haven't had time to stew lamb and scorpion for you. I said hello to you. When? Fang Yan pointed at the doorstep and said, I just stood there and said, I said Mom, I'm back. I was saying hello to you. Chapter 328. Lu Wan was such a gentle woman, but she had the urge to strangle Fang Yan and bury him in the snow. Then, was he really born by her? How could she give birth to a son with such a character? If she still couldn't understand Fang Yan's trick, then Lu Wan had grown up in a scholarly family in vain. People who read more were naturally smarter than ordinary people. The moment she saw her son appear at the door, she understood what her son was up to. This bastard was worried that she would be bombarded by the family when she came back, so he called in advance to say that he would not be home for the spring festival. Receiving such a call was naturally very sad. When she couldn't help but stand up to speak for him and had a civil war with Fang Yixing, who was most angry about his escape, he suddenly appeared at the door. Wasn't this adding fuel to the fire? Lu Wan felt very sorry for her husband. It was pitiful enough to give birth to such a son, but he was also ridiculed and scolded by her. You came back a long time ago, right? Lu Wan looked at Fang Yan and asked. It's not early, Fang Yan said. I just got home. I mean, you decided to come back to Yanjing for the spring festival a long time ago and you came back early, but you didn't call me in advance. I did call, but you lied to me and said that you wouldn't be home for the spring festival, which made me sad for a while. Mom, I also wanted to give you a surprise, Fang Yan said embarrassedly. Surprise? It's really a surprise. Lu Wan waved at Fang Yan. Fang Yan, come here and let Mom have a look. Fang Yan opened his eyes wide and looked at Lu Wan with vigilance, saying, Mom, you don't want to hit me, do you? Lu Wan rolled her eyes at her son and said with a smile, Why would I hit you? You're my son. I just want to see if you have lost weight, whether you eat well and sleep well outside. Actually, I'm fine. Fang Yan moved towards Lu Wan step by step. But I want to maintain my figure, so I don't dare to eat too much. But Fang Yingying is a little fatter. Yes. I'm fat. Fang Yingying echoed, trying to attract his mother's attention. What made him sad was that what he was doing was useless. No one even looked at him. Fang Haohen patted him on the shoulder and said sympathetically, No one looked at me either. It would have been better if Fang Haohen hadn't said anything. Hearing these comforting words, Fang Yingying's tears almost flowed out. It was too damn sad. Fang Yan spent a lot of effort to move in front of Lu Wan and said, Mom, what do you want to see? Lu Wan suddenly grabbed Fang Yan's ear and pulled his body towards her. Fang Yan cried out in pain and said, It hurts. Mom, be gentle, I'm going to be disfigured. What do I want to see? What do you think I want to see? Lu Wan scolded angrily. I just want to see whether your face is thicker or not. How can you torment your own parents like this? Why did I give birth to a son like you? You called home to lie and made me quarrel with your father. I'm going to pull your ear off. Mom, I'm wrong. Mom, I was wrong. I didn't want to do this, but Fang Yingxiong said that I should call home to inform them. Fang Haohen also said that it would give people a pleasant surprise. First, you'll be disappointed, then I'll suddenly appear in front of you. They all said that you'll be very happy this way. It's all my fault for believing in their slanderous words. Fang Yan betrayed Fang Yingxiong and Fang Haohen without hesitation. What was the use of a martial nephew? Wasn't it used to be a scapegoat? As expected, Lu Wan glanced at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen fiercely and said with a murderous look, Fang Yingying, Fang Haohen. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen looked at each other. They both had a kind of determination to pull Fang Yan down even if they were to be cut into pieces. Fang Yingying ran to Lu Wan with the big leather box in his arms and put it down. He knelt down with a thud and kowtowed 3 times. He hugged Lu Wan's leg and cried, Madam, I miss you so much. How are you? I'm going to find Junior Marshal Uncle. I can't be filial to you. You must take good care of yourself. When you are hungry, remember to eat. When you are cold, remember to add clothes. Seeing that Lu Wan's face was getting darker and darker, Fang Yingying realized that he had acted too much. He hurriedly opened the big box in front of him and said attentively, Madam, look. These are all the gifts your daughter-in-law chose for you. There must be something you like. Daughter-in-law? Lu Wan was stunned. Fang Yan got married outside? Daughter-in-law sent gifts. Sure enough, this trick worked well. Lu Wan's attention was immediately diverted. The muscles on Fang Yan's face kept twitching. He had an impulse to cut Fang Yingying 1,000 times and throw him out to feed the dogs. You bastard son of a bitch, why do you have to touch my sore spot? Do you want me to live a peaceful life? Do you have any morality or loyalty? Seeing that Fang Yingying had used up all his tricks, Fang Haohen did not want to show weakness. He knelt down in front of Lu Wan with a thud. After kowtowing 3 times he shouted, "Madam, I kowtow to you." Fang Haohen was ordered by my master to look for Junior Martial Uncle. I didn't let my master down. I finally found Junior Martial Uncle in Huaqing. Originally we wanted to take Junior Martial Uncle back to Yanjing immediately. But Junior Martial Uncle has joined the work in Huaqing. He is determined to teach his students what he has learned. This ambition is not small. Hero and I dare not disturb him. We can only accompany him. Cooking is my daily work. Hero and I take turns to do the laundry and mop the floor. We eat after Junior Martial Uncle eats. We sleep after Junior Martial Uncle sleeps. We never let Junior Martial Uncle starve or freeze for a day. We have the kindness of the Fang family and my mother's care. All the grievances are not grievances. All the hardships are not hard. We just want to give my mother an explanation when we come back. We will be satisfied. Lu Wan was about to cry. She stroked Fang Haohen's head and said, "Hero, you have worked hard. I know you are a good boy. You and Hero are both good boys. Your master is too selfish. Fang Yan is a bastard. We shouldn't have looked for him." Now Fang Yan's cheeks were not only trembling. His whole body was shaking. So hateful. It's so hateful. He hunted wild geese all day long. Today he was pecked blind by 2 small geese. Isn't the truth the opposite of what they said? Fang Yan wanted to kick Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen's butts. He scolded, "You 2 bastards. Touch your conscience. Tell my mother who is taking care of who in Huaqing. Whose food are you eating? Whose house are you living in? How did you survive in Huaqing when you are penniless? Tell my mother clearly." Unfortunately, he forgot that his ear was still in Lu Wan's hand. Seeing that Fang Yan wanted to beat her, Lu Wan was even angrier. She pulled hard and Fang Yan's kick failed. Lu Wan slapped Fang Yan's head and shouted, "You are such a wastrel. When you are at home you have everything you need. When did you do housework? If it weren't for Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen, how could you survive in Huaqing? You don't know how to repay kindness and you even touch your benefactor. Fang Yan, you are so disappointing." Fang Yan cried. He wanted to run away from home. This home was so dark that he couldn't feel any warmth. The city is getting dark. When love passes by, how many people can be happy? No one loves me. No one waits for me. I don't think I'll be lonely. The people in this city are too cold and weak. I'm the only one left. I've walked too much alone and my tears keep rolling. Please save your love for me. My heart is so cold waiting for you to hurt me. Slap. Fang Yan's head was slapped again. Also, what's wrong with my wife? There are so many girls. What's the job? Is she beautiful or not? You didn't even tell your family before you got married? Are you going to get married because you have a baby? You came back this time just to tell me the truth, right? If I don't agree, you're going to elope with someone. Explain it to me. Fang Yan was completely dumbfounded. Mom, have you watched too many melodramatic dramas at 8 o'clock? What do you mean by getting married because you have a baby? Come home and tell me the truth. Elope with someone? What are you talking about? I don't understand it all, okay? At this moment, even the originators Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen became idiots. They opened their mouths wide and couldn't say anything for a long time. They only mentioned the word daughter-in-law. They didn't say anything else. Junior Martial Uncle, you should be clear before you kill someone. Mom, can you let go of me first? Fang Yan said with red eyes. Let go of me first. I'll explain it to you. Let go of me and listen to your explanation. You can make phone calls and lie while standing in front of your house. If I let go of you, can you still believe what you say? Lu Wan sneered. Tell me quickly. Otherwise I'll use all my strength. Although I haven't learned kung fu, I still have the strength to pull off an ear. Mom, this is a misunderstanding. That's Fang Yingying talking nonsense. How can you have a daughter-in-law? Ouch, ouch, ouch. What do you mean? What do you mean by how can you have a daughter-in-law? I have a son. Why don't I have a daughter-in-law? Can't you even find a wife? Luwan was so angry that her teeth itched. No wonder your dad said you ran away from the battle. You're shameless and afraid of death. You can't even find a girlfriend. Do you still deserve to be a man of our Fong family? Fong Yan was completely desperate. He raised his face 45 degrees to look at the gloomy sky outside. The snow was flying and the cold wind was howling. It was just like his damp mood at the moment. Mom, I've explained so much. I just want to ask one question, Fong Yan asked with a sad voice. Which family has the best excavator technology? Chapter 329. Luwan's character was very gentle and her appearance was very classical. She could play the role of a beauty in ancient times by wearing a palace dress and changing her hairstyle. Fong Yan's appearance was more inherited from his mother, which was also the reason why he looked so delicate. Hearing the extremely strange question asked by Fong Yan, Luwan was extremely shocked and asked, "What excavator technology? Fong Yan, what are you talking about?" "Find a good excavator and let them dig a hole to bury me. Bury it deeper so that I can't help but climb out again," Fong Yan said in a sad tone. "Anyway, you won't believe anything I say." Luwan then let go of Fong Yan's ear and said seriously, "Then tell me what's going on." "You don't have a daughter-in-law for the time being," Fong Yan said with absolute certainty. "The person they are talking about is a very good friend of mine." But Luwan obviously still had some doubts about her son's words. Her eyes moved to Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan again, with an expression that said if they dared to lie to her, she would really find an excavator to dig a hole and bury them alive. Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan looked at each other and knew that they could only grit their teeth and persist to the end. Just now, in order to change the topic, they revealed the matter of Fong Yan and Lu Chaoga. If they denied their previous words now, Luwan would definitely kill them. "Madam, if Junior Marshal Uncle says no, then no." Fong Yingying glanced at Fong Yan carefully as if he had to say so because he was afraid of Fong Yan's power and influence. "However, when we were in Huaqing, we all lived in Miss Lu's house." "What?" Luwan widened her eyes. "Cohabitation? Fong Yan even cohabitation with a girl? Mom, don't look at me like this. I did live in her house, but that house is vacant. She usually doesn't live there." Junior Marshal Uncle didn't lie. "Miss Lu only comes to stay for a night occasionally." Fong Haohan loyally helped Fong Yan get away with it. Luwan stared at Fong Yan for a long time and asked, "Is Miss Lu's name Lu Chaoga?" Fong Yan's eyes widened. Even Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan were confused. They only called her Miss Lu and didn't seem to call her by her name. "How did my mother know?" "Strange. Do you think I don't know what you've done in Flower City? Do you think that we can ignore you and pretend that we don't have a son like you after you leave?" Luwan felt sour in her heart and said, "You haven't arrived in Flower City, but we already know your whereabouts. We know everything you've done in Flower City. I call your grandma every night. You've come up with a new teaching method, you've had conflicts with others, your class got the first place in the language exam. I know everything. Although your father said that he was angry and never asked about you, every time I called your grandma, he would sit next to the telephone and pretend to read the newspaper. I know he also misses you, Fong Yan, you're our child. As a parent, who would really be angry with their own child?" Plop. Fong Yan knelt down on the ground. "Mom, I'm sorry I let you down," Fong Yan said with red eyes. "I've tried very hard, really tried very hard, but I always let you down again and again." Luwan reached out to pull Fong Yan up from the ground and said, "You didn't let us down? It's just that we had too high expectations of you. If we randomly found an opponent for you, how could you fail for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years and then again? But we wanted you to find Yi Ro, in the whole Swallow Dock, who can be her opponent. Others can't beat her, so why should my son beat her? You've tried hard, we know. You don't like to practice martial arts, but you forced yourself to enter this field and you can also achieve such achievements. How can I be disappointed with you? You don't know how proud I am. I can't wait to let the whole world know that I have a good son." Luwan bent over and patted the dust on Fong Yan's knees, saying, "I know Lu Chaoga, your grandma told me. She said that you two often went to eat together at home and she was very happy to see you two sitting together. She also invited me to Flower City to have a look, hoping to facilitate the marriage between you two. I didn't agree. I'm afraid that I'll make you nervous if I go there. You've worked hard for your family for so many years and you've been wronged for so many years. I hope you can live a relaxed and happy life in Flower City. You can live as you want and you can live as you want. Don't think about anything and don't consider anything. Just do as you like. In addition, I don't want to interfere with your feelings too early. You've grown up and you're no longer a child. It's natural for you to find a girl to fall in love with. Our Fang Yan is very smart and responsible. I believe you can handle your own affairs. Lu Wan reached out to hold Fang Yan's wrist and said, "You've been running around for a whole day. You must be hungry, right? The kitchen is ready for dinner. Go eat first. Let's talk while eating." Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen also got up from the ground. Fang Yingying bent over and patted the dust on Fang Haohen's knees, and Fang Haohen also patted the dust on Fang Yingying's knees. Then the two brothers looked at each other and followed them to the dining room. When everyone in the living room had gone out, the door of the study was opened quietly. Fang Yixing listened to the voices of his son Fang Yan and his wife Lu Wan, as well as the quarrel between Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen. He couldn't help but grin. He walked back to the desk and spread out the rice paper. He picked up the brush and used the ink to write 5 strong characters in one go. "Everything will be fine as long as you have a son." After eating a plate of dumplings, when Fang Yan was about to order a second plate, Fang Yixing walked into the dining room. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen hurriedly got up. Fang Yan also stood up and shouted, "Dad, you still have the face to come back?" Fang Yixing snorted coldly and glanced sideways at Fang Yan. However, his tone was much gentler. It didn't seem like he was reprimanding his son, but more like he was joking with his son. Fang Yan looked at Fang Yixing and said sternly, "Father, I know that my action of running away from home has made you very embarrassed and disgraced you. I was in the wrong this time. I was too impulsive. I apologize to you." Fang Yixing originally thought that Fang Yan would quarrel with him, but he didn't expect him to react like this. "You're so tactful. How can I scold you? If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're wrong, you have to apologize." Fang Yan said with a smile. "I also regretted it, but at that time my heart was in a mess. I really didn't know what to do. I didn't even know who to discuss it with. You also know that I'm too prideful." The heart of Tai Chi was gone just like that. How could I have the face to complain to others? Fang Yixing sighed softly, looked at Fang Yan and said, "Let bygones be bygones. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Dad, let's have a drink?" Fang Yan said. Fang Yixing usually didn't drink, but when he heard his son's suggestion, he was a little moved. He pulled out a chair and sat down, saying, "Let's have a drink." Fang Yingying hurriedly ran out to get the wine. "This kid is getting more and more slippery. Did you go to see your grandpa?" Fang Yixing asked. "I'll go in a while." Fang Yan said. "Did you underestimate the enemy?" "I'll go in a while." Fang Yan said. "I also brought him good wine. And the Yi family, I have to go and see them too." Fang Yixing said. "I will." Fang Yan said with a smile. "Prepare some gifts. I'll go to the Yi family to visit the old man." Fang Yixing and Lu Wan looked at each other. They both felt that their son's return this time was a little abnormal. In the past, it was more difficult for him to go to the Yi family than to kill him. Why didn't he resist at all this time? When Fang Yan went to the backyard to see his grandpa, the old man Fang Hui was sitting on a chair and soaking his feet. The weather was cold and the blood in the old man's legs were not smooth. It was easy to get cold. Soaking his feet with medicinal soup could promote blood circulation and drive away the cold, which was good for the old man's health. Seeing Fang Yan enter the room, Fang Hui laughed out loud. He pointed at Fang Yan and said, "Kid, you're indeed Fang Hui's grandson. Even though you lost miserably, you still ran with vigor. Grandpa, I'll take that as a compliment." Fang Yan said with a smile. He walked to the old man and asked the nanny who was washing his grandpa's feet to leave. He continued the work that the nanny had not finished. He took his grandpa's feet out of the wooden bucket, wiped them with a clean towel and carefully massaged the acupoints on his feet. He was much better at this than the nanny. Fang Hui looked at his grandson with a face full of love and said, "That old fisherman called me and said that you don't know how to respect the old and love the young, and even wanted to trick him into becoming your fighter. My grandson wants a little help from him, and that's because he thinks highly of him. Why doesn't he look at himself? His old arms and legs are useless now." Fang Yan laughed and said, "He's really your friend? I thought he was lying to me, so I thought no matter if you're my grandpa's friend or not, I'll beat the bad guys first. But he's so stingy he won't even help a little. Everyone has their own ambitions, you can't force them, Feng Hui said. But he also wanted me to give you a warning. What warning? It's good for young people to be hot-blooded, but don't shed blood so easily, Feng Hui said. Feng Yan's eyes became fierce and said, is he warning me or threatening me? Feng Hui looked at Feng Yan and asked, Feng Yan, tell Grandpa, who did you offend outside? Otherwise that old thing the fisherman wouldn't have called me and said such a baffling thing. Grandpa, I'll take care of it, don't worry. Bullshit, Feng Hui shouted. Your problem is our Feng family's problem. If someone bullies you, they're bullying our Feng family. If you bully others, it's our Feng family bullying others. If there's spit, it's my face. If there's a knife, it's me who'll block it. Do you think it's your turn? Chapter 330. Feng Hui had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and his bald head was shining. His gaze was like a knife, staring at his grandson, as if he would poke 1,000 holes into the kid if he was dissatisfied. If there's spit, let it splash on my face. If there's a knife, let me block it with my body. Only those who love you deeply will say such words to you. Only say a few words to people, don't give up all your heart. This sentence had been used as a golden saying for thousands of years. Everyone was wearing layers of masks, looking left and right, scanning back and forth, extremely vigilant and careful. Everyone was so tired that they wished they could find a place with no one around and cry their hearts out. However, it was not like this at home. It was warm, comfortable, and caring for each other. When you were sick, no matter how late it was, father would rush out to buy medicine for you. When you were hungry, no matter how busy mother was, she would put down her work to make a bowl of dumplings or a bowl of noodles filled with soup. After thinking for a while, she would fiercely put 2 fried eggs on it. This kind of love was not mixed with the slightest bit of water. Feng Yan's eyes were red and his heart was full of bitterness. He lowered his head and massaged the acupoints on his grandfather's feet. Because of being bedridden for a long time, the skin and flesh on his legs were thin and shriveled, like a piece of rotten old wood that had long lost its vitality. Grandpa was old. Feng Yixing didn't care about family affairs. He wrote poems and paintings, and he was more like a natural and unrestrained scholar. Therefore the young Feng Yan and the old Feng Hui had to bear more pressure. At his age, with such a body, his grandfather should be enjoying the rest of his life, but he still had to work hard for the Feng family and for the younger generation. Feng Yan's heart was filled with guilt and unease. As if sensing Feng Yan's emotions, Feng Hui reached out and patted the back of Feng Yan's hand, saying, don't feel guilty, don't blame yourself, and don't have any psychological pressure. What do we old people want? Isn't it just for the safety of our descendants? That old thing, the fisherman, refused to obey anyone his whole life. When we were young we had a lot of fights, but he called a few days ago and praised me for having a good grandson. You see, I have already gained face here. Even if I close my eyes and go down to see our ancestors, I can still stand in front of them with my back straight. I can say loudly that I didn't bring shame to the Feng family. Grandpa, I was too mischievous in the past few years and often made you angry. Feng Yan said with a smile. I've experienced many things on this trip and I've learned many things. I won't do it again. I want to be a good person. You don't have to think or ask anything in the future. Just read some books and practice boxing. When you're free, I'll push you out to bask in the sun. Try to live to 300 or 500 years old. Feng Hui let out a hearty laugh that shook the night sky. He patted the back of his grandson's hand hard and said, with such a grandson, what else can I ask for in life? What is there to seek in life? Still a request. Let's just ask him to live for 300 to 500 years, Feng Yan said with a smile. The smile on Feng Hui's face disappeared. He looked at his grandson lovingly and said, Feng Yan, do you know? You've been sensible since you were young. That's not what you used to say, Feng Yan said with a smile. In the past he often fought with people outside and provoked chickens and dogs. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was ignored by dogs. There were often children's parents who came to his door, and then his family would lock him in the house and punish him. When he was a child he was whipped and stood on the pole. The so-called standing on the pole was upside down and had to carry a bowl of water on the tip of his toes. At that time Feng Yan was still young. He was sweating profusely after 5 minutes and his whole body was shaking after 10 minutes. After half an hour he was half dead. Although Fang Yixing was strict with his son, he couldn't bear to punish him like this. However, Fang Hui wouldn't be polite with Fang Yan. When he heard that his grandson was causing trouble, he glared at him and shouted, "Stand on the pole for half an hour to wake up your brain." Therefore, after standing on the pole for half an hour, Fang Yan would often be paralyzed on the ground in a daze like a pile of mud. "Why did you fight with people?" "That's because some people are too much. Grandpa's leg disease relapsed and he's paralyzed. Your father gave up halfway on the path of martial arts. In their eyes, he's no different from a useless person. He underestimated the enemy and was trapped in a demonic miasma. When others see that our Fang family is in decline, they want to bully us. The hundreds of families in our Swallow Dock all have a fighting spirit in their bones. When they scold you, you have to scold them back. If you dare to turn around and walk away the next time you see them, they dare to kick you, they dare to slap you in the face. I'm useless, your father can't be hit, underestimate the enemy, sleep more than awake all day, you've seen all of this. So you stood out at such a young age. Someone scolded me as an old cripple. Do you fight?" "Yes." Fang Yan said. "Someone scolded your father as an old trash. Do you fight?" "Yes." Fang Yan said again. "Someone scolded him as an old drunkard who underestimated the enemy. Do you fight?" "Yes, no." Fang Yan said with some uncertainty. "He really is an old drunkard. I also call him an old drunkard." Slap. Fang Yan's head received a slap. "Don't you know how bitter it is to underestimate the enemy?" Fang Hui scolded. "How dare we bully our Fang family when we underestimate the enemy? Who dares to say anything harsh to me, an old cripple, and your father, that old trash? If it weren't for the fact that we underestimated the enemy, who knows how hard it would have been for our Fang family." "Grandpa, I know." Fang Yan's head hurt. He said gloomily, "It's a fact that he likes to drink and is an old drunkard. But he's the only old drunkard that I respect, admire, and even somewhat worship. He could still create drunken crane riding the wind when he was that drunk. This footwork helped me a lot when we fought against the Japanese sword god. So, be more polite when you talk to the enemy next time. Don't be impolite. If I really did that, I'm afraid I won't even be able to enter his small courtyard in the future," Fang Yan said. Fang Hui thought about it and said with some annoyance, "Do as you please. A bunch of impolite lunatics. People will only be afraid when they're crazy," Fang Yan said with a smile. "Yes. So at that time you would beat people up every now and then. When people scolded me as an old cripple and your father as an old trash who underestimated the enemy as an old drunkard, you beat up their sons and grandsons until they were bleeding and screaming." Fang Hui sighed softly and said, "We old guys can't do it anymore, but we still have the younger generation. Plus, our younger generation is better than theirs. As parents, don't they like to compete with their children's grades? You can be considered to have brought honor to our Fang family, winning every fight." Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, "Your heart is like a mirror. Why did you still punish me so severely back then?" "It wasn't punishment, it was training. Special training. Other than me, Fang Hui, whose grandfather would train his grandson like an animal." Fang Hui said proudly. "To make you stronger, to make you more powerful. I'm afraid that you'll lose the next fight. At that time, our Fang family won't even have the last piece of cloth to hide our shame." "You're really astute," Fang Yan said. "There are times when I've miscalculated," Fang Hui said. "At that time I wanted to see where your bottom line was, how far you could go. But you actually won all the way, even the genius of the Bailey family, Madman Bailey, was defeated by you. This became big news in the entire Swallow Dock. At that time I was thinking, it seems like you haven't reached the end yet, so I'll pressure you a bit more. Find someone more powerful to pressure and see how deep your potential is." Fang Hui looked at Fang Yan a bit embarrassedly and said, "Originally I wanted to find Bai Xiu, but the Bai family refused. But in this Swallow Dock only the girl from the Yi family was suitable. So I shamelessly went to the Yi family to challenge them." When the Yi family saw that someone dared to challenge them, they were naturally furious. So the girl from the Yi family was a bit heavier. The Yi family's attitude toward our Fang family was a bit worse. "I can't beat Yi-Ro, I lost the first time we sparred," Fang Yan said with a painful expression, as if he couldn't bear to recall the past. At that time Yi-Ro was really ruthless and she didn't show any mercy. She sent him flying into the sky and then stepped on him, breaking the door frame and sinking into the mud wall. Sometimes he even wondered if this girl wanted to kill him and end it all. Otherwise, it was just a sparring match. Why did it look like there was a deep hatred? Since I've already lost, it proves that my potential ends here. Why do I have to compete every year, year after year? I can't accept it, Feng Hui said. At that time I thought my grandson lost this time, but maybe he'll win next time? But I lost the second time. I know. But what if you win the third time? Feng Hui said with a serious face. You also know that the girl from the Yi family is known as the #1 among the younger generation in the Jianghu. If you beat her, who would dare to look down on our Feng family? A genius is about to rise and they're not afraid of our revenge? So I shamelessly challenged the Yi family for the third time. Wait. Feng Yan suddenly raised his head and stared at Feng Hui with his eyes wide open. You said, the third time? Didn't we agree to have a fight every year? How can that be? Who would want to do the same thing for 10 years? Feng Hui shook his head. The girl from the Yi family won the first year, but she didn't want to fight you again the second year. How did you convince them? I went to the Yi family and told them that they were afraid, weren't they? Otherwise, why didn't they dare to fight? My grandson trained hard for a year and this year he wants to take revenge. How can he not fight? Chapter 331. The Yi family is just a bunch of cowards. Do you think you can always win after winning once? My grandson is a genius. He practices hard every day just to defeat Yi Ruru and get revenge for last year's humiliation. If you have the guts, fight with my grandson again. My grandson Feng Yan told me that this time, the Feng family will definitely beat the Yi family. Our Feng family will regain the first place on the Qingyun list. My grandson Feng Yan should be the first in the Neijiang Lake. Thinking about a bald old man in a wheelchair roaring in the Yi family's hall, and how the Yi family was unable to do anything to a paralyzed old man, Feng Yan's entire body trembled with anger, and he broke out in a cold sweat from the lingering fear. It was a combination of ice and fire. What a proud family the Yi family was. It was a prosperous family with many talents. Since the birth of Yi Ruru, a rare martial arts genius, the Yi family became even more arrogant and domineering. Just like what Feng Yan knew, even the chickens of the Yi family were more arrogant than the chickens of other families. The people of the Yi family were even more arrogant. Who did they usually look up to? However, Feng Hui, the grandpa of the Feng family, went to the Yi family to provoke them and called them cowards. He finally understood why Yi Ruru looked at him like a knife every time she saw him. He also understood that every time he competed with Yi Ruru, the Yi family's mouths were more vicious than the other, and they wanted to cut off a few pieces of his flesh. He also understood why Grandpa never showed up in the competition, saying that he was not feeling well. After knowing the truth, Feng Yan suddenly felt that the beatings he had suffered over the years were not unfair at all. Even if he was beaten to death by Yi Ruru, it was because she was kind and gave him a discount, instead of crippling him and humiliating him for the rest of his life. Feng Yan grasped Feng Hui's feet tightly. He was afraid that he would lose control and crush the bones of his feet. He looked at Feng Hui with infinite grievance and said, "Grandpa, how could you do such a thing? Why didn't you tell me in advance? Do you know how terrible Yi Ruru is? I have nightmares every night when I think of her. Of course I know that girl from the Yi clan is powerful. Otherwise, how could she be qualified to be my grandson's opponent?" Feng Hui said matter-of-factly. Then his bright eyes were filled with a smile as he said, "If it weren't for that, we wouldn't have been able to force another genius with the heart of Tai Chi out of the Feng clan. Think about it, when did you comprehend the heart of Tai Chi?" Feng Yan pointed to his left leg and said, "This leg was broken by Yi Ro when I was recuperating in bed. Isn't that right? Pressure gives you motivation, oppression gives you resistance, and competition gives you continuous improvement. If it weren't for Yi Wen-ro, if it weren't for me begging her to beat you up every year, would you have practiced martial arts so hard?" Feng Yan opened his mouth, not knowing how to answer this question. It sounded like Grandpa was really doing it for his own good, but why did he feel that something was not quite right? It didn't take long for Feng Yan to figure out what the problem was. He looked at Feng Hui and said, "Aren't you afraid that the Feng clan will beat me to death if you provoke them like this?" Feng Hui glanced at Feng Yan and said, "I'm still alive, aren't I? The path of martial arts is like climbing a dangerous mountain or sailing a boat in the raging sea. It's very common to get injured or even lose your life in the face of hardships and obstacles. Your father, let's not talk about your father. Let's talk about underestimating your enemy. Underestimating your enemy made him a genius of his generation, but he couldn't get out of it and almost became half a cripple. Isn't it also because of the pursuit and dedication of higher martial arts? There are countless cases like this, but how many people would give up because of this? If you can choke to death on rice and water, what's a little pain for a hot-blooded man like me? When you enter the realm and reach the other side, you'll find that what you've suffered before is really nothing. Grandpa's right. Fang Yan nodded helplessly. That's why we owe the Yi clan a great favor. Fang Hui said. I'll keep it in mind. Fang Yan said. After being beaten up for so many years, he still owed a great favor. Who could he find to reason with? Fang Hui took a towel and threw it to Fang Yan and said, wipe it, no need to rub it. It's useless even if you rub it. Go wash your hands and warm a pot of wine. Let's have a drink and enjoy the snow. You can't drink. I'll make you a cup of goat's milk, Fang Yan said. Bullshit. Who said I can't drink? I said drink then drink. Milk? Are you scolding me? Old urchin, people become urchins when they get old. Fang Yan couldn't dissuade Fang Hui, so he asked the kitchen to warm a pot of plum wine. Fang Yan poured a cup for Fang Hui. Fang Hui took it and drank it in one gulp. He clicked his tongue and said with regret, it's not satisfying. It's not as satisfying as burning knives. Just drink it. Fang Yan said with a smile. I secretly asked someone to warm it for me. I said I wanted to drink it myself. If my mom saw this, she would pull my ear again. Humph, do you need a woman to talk about men's business? Fang Hui glared and shouted. He paused, then sighed and said, it's been hard on your mom these years. She suffered a lot in our Fang family. Because of this, I don't even have the face to raise my head in front of my old friend. Lu Gong is an unyielding man. He has never lowered his head to anyone. His daughter, Sai, it's our Fang family that let the Lu family down. Grandpa and Grandma are both good. They didn't say anything about who let the other down. Fang Yan said with a smile. When he was in Huaqing, what he heard the most was his grandpa and grandma blaming the Fang family for letting him practice martial arts. They thought it was too dangerous to fight and kill all day. They never said how bad their daughter's marriage was and how miserable her life was. Fang Yan knew that his mother Lu Wan didn't think that way either. Her life was just a little dull and she was more or less ridiculed by the neighbors. So what if it's nothing? They don't have to say it, but we can't, Fang Hui said in a deep voice. They raised their daughter and sent her to our family. We have to let their daughter eat well and live a good life. Otherwise, how can we live up to the trust they placed in us? Grandpa's right. The men of the Fang family will never let their women be wronged. Fang Yan knew that Fang Hui was a male chauvinist, so he followed along and said, don't you still have me? I will definitely let her live a good life in the future. Yes. Our family's hope is on you. Fang Hui said. Open the window and push me to the window. It's still snowing outside? It is. Fang Yan said. Why don't you open the window? It's windy and snowing. If Grandpa's body can't take it, you brat, you're scolding me in a roundabout way. I'm also a martial artist. Who taught you how to underestimate your enemy in your kung fu? Fang Hui sneered. Open the window. Fang Yan had to open the window. A gust of cold wind swept in, like a cold knife scraping on his skin. Snowflakes danced in front of the window. The whole world was covered in ice and snow. The flowers and grass in the yard all turned into ice sculptures. It made people feel happy and cheerful. Fang Hui pulled the blanket off his body and exposed his chest to the wind and snow. He laughed and said, this is good. Pour the wine. Fang Yan took the small pot and poured the wine for Fang Hui. Fang Hui drank it in one gulp and handed the cup over again. He said, pour the wine. Fang Yan didn't move the pot. He said, I can't do that. I haven't finished my cup yet. We'll split the wine in half. Don't try to take advantage of me. Fang Yan drank the plum wine in his cup in one gulp and poured himself another. Then he poured a cup for his grandpa and a cup for himself. He said, this is fair. Fang Hui laughed and said, you brat. You never want to lose in front of anyone. Of course. You can eat anything but you can't lose. Fang Yan said with a smile. After drinking 2 cups of wine, I finally have a little heat and blood in my body. Tell me which bastard bullied my grandson. Fang Hui asked. Fang Yan thought for a while and said, "Actually, I was just being a busybody. Since you intervened, then it's something you should intervene. There are two kinds of people, our own people and outsiders. There are also two kinds of things, good things and evil things. If someone does evil things, then it's something we should intervene. Otherwise, what's the point of practicing martial arts? What's the point of living? Grandpa's realm is still higher." Fang Yan flattered him and said with a smile, "Someone bullied a girl and wanted to rob her family property. I couldn't stand it, so I helped solve two small problems. But in the end, I got stuck in a quagmire and can't get out. Even the ghost fisherman came out. The someone you mentioned can't be an ordinary person, right?" Fang Hui went straight to the heart of the matter. "I know his name is Jiang Junling," Fang Yan said. Jiang Junling. Fang Hui's tiger eyes shone with a frightening light. His expression was slightly shocked. He said, "Is it the one whose son should be like Jiang Junling, Jiang Junling?" Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, "Even Grandpa knows this sentence? It seems that I've really offended a great person." "Bah!" Fang Hui scolded, "You're just putting gold on your face. Who doesn't know how to do this kind of thing?" I ran to the Yi family and shouted that my grandson Fang Yan is the #1 person in the Jianghu. You'll have to do it for real. Fang Yan felt a burning pain on his face as if someone had slapped him several times. Chapter 332. A pot of plum wine was not enough for the two of them to rinse their mouths. Soon the pot was empty. Fang Hui looked at Fang Yan expectantly and said, "Warm another pot?" "Oh." Fang Yan shook his head firmly. "You mustn't, and I won't drink with you. If you do, I'd rather go to bed. Who else in this house has the guts to warm your wine for you except me? Bastard." Fang Hui cursed angrily. "Don't think that I can't deal with you just because my legs are paralyzed. Aren't you back now? Tomorrow I'll go to the Yi family and scold them. I'll say that the girl from the Yi family ran to Huaqing and was beaten black and blue by my grandson and ran back crying for her parents. Do you think the Yi family will eat you up?" Fang Yan's face became bitter again as he said, "Grandpa, am I really your grandson? It's fine if the people outside bully me, but you also bully me? Who dares to bully you outside? Didn't that brat from the Jiang family also lose to you?" Fang Yan shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "He doesn't even need to do anything himself. All he has to do is move his lips, and I have to be in danger time and time again. I have to fight for my life and escape from death time and time again. How could he not take advantage of me? If I'm the slightest bit careless, I'll die and I won't be able to come back to see you. What about him? I've won again and again, but all I've done is cut off some of his branches and leaves. He's still that sturdy and tall tree trunk. When winter passes and spring comes, he'll once again flourish with leaves and become the benchmark and hope for countless people. Grandpa, this is an unfair battle." Fang Hui looked at Fang Yan with burning eyes and said, "Are you afraid?" "Grandpa, I'm not afraid. There is no fear in the martial arts spirit, only fear. I just don't like this kind of oppressive environment. I worry that he will harm my family. I worry that he will harm my friends. I even worry that he will harm my students. I'm not afraid of death, but I don't want to die. I'm not afraid of death, but I'm more afraid of the people I care about dying because of me. I'm your grandfather, so I have the right to speak. I'm not afraid to die. Your father also has the right to speak, and he is not afraid of death. Your mother, your family, your friends, they all have a say. None of us are afraid to die." Fang Hui looked at Fang Yan and asked, "If you were given a second chance, would you still choose to do the same thing? Would he still choose to do that? If he could do it all over again, would he still push Lu Chaoge away from the speeding car? If he could do it all over again, would he still save Qin Yitian from the bomb attack? If he could do it all over again, would he still straighten his back and not give in to Jiang Junling? Yes, he would do it again. If he could do it all over again while saving Lu Chaoge, he would also save the security guard of Sky One, Lu Jinju. That way his wife wouldn't be a widow and his parents wouldn't lose their son. Most importantly, he would be able to see his son call him father. Now that his heart of Tai Chi had entered the Starlight Realm, he believed that he had the ability to do it. If he could do it all over again, he would still save Qin Yitian from the bomb attack. Not only because she was a girl who admired him, but most importantly, she was his student. It was natural for a teacher to save a student. Not only would he save her, but he would also protect her with his own chest. He wouldn't let her get hurt and he wouldn't let her use her thin body to block bullets for him. She was known for her intelligence, but she wasn't good at this kind of thing. If he could do it all over again, he would still raise his head and stick out his chest in front of Jiang Junling and not give in. If someone scolded him, he would scold him back. If someone slapped him, he would slap him back dozens of times. This was his spirit, his pride, and the code of conduct and ethics that he had adhered to since he was young. The biggest difference between him and Bai Xiu was that Bai Xiu could endure humiliation and let his face dry. But Fang Yan wouldn't. He wouldn't endure humiliation, because he believed that enduring would only bring him more humiliation. He wouldn't bear any weight because too much weight would suppress his heart of Tai Chi. He wouldn't let the saliva on his face dry by itself. He would smear the other party's face with saliva. Some people scolded him for being a pervert, some said that he was despicable, and some even said that he was a bitch all the time. But did he do anything wrong? If I could do it all over again. Fang Yan looked into Fang Hui's eyes and said firmly, I believe that I can do better. If you didn't do anything wrong, then it's someone else's fault, Fang Hui said with a serious expression. Would I blame my grandson for doing a few good things? Maybe other people's parents would do that, but our Fang family doesn't have such family rules and teachings. I know what to do now, Fang Yan said with a serious expression. Be brave, be fearless, and stick to your heart, Fang Hui said. What the heart thinks is what the person wants. Only in this way the spirit of Tai Chi will not be extinguished and the heart of Tai Chi will be eternal. The reason why you obtained your heart at such a young age is because you have been living freely all these years and never disobeyed the laws of heaven and humanity. If anyone is retaliated against because of this, I am willing to be a martyr on the path you seek. Fang Yan stood up and bowed deeply to Fang Hui. It's not because I'm kind and selfless. Fang Hui looked at Fang Yan, his old eyes filled with joy, and said, It's because you are my grandson. That's all. Fang Yan had been sitting in the Yi family's hall for half an hour, but no one from the Yi family came out to entertain the guests. The maid of the Yi family, said that she would go in to report, but there was no more news. What's more infuriating is that you should at least pour a cup of tea for the guests before you leave, right? Fang Yan was not in a hurry. He knew that the Fang family and the Yi family had not been on good terms over the years, and it was not an exaggeration to say that they had a deep hatred. Because of Grandpa Fang's manipulation and instigation, every time Fang Yan and Yi Rou fought, it was like adding fuel to the fire in the hearts of the two families. If what Grandpa said was true, then the Fang family or Fang Yan did indeed owe the Yi family a huge favor. Most importantly, on the eve of his battle with the Japanese sword god Chiba, Yi Rou rushed thousands of miles to help. Although it was said that she was entrusted by the old drunkard, she still rushed to Huaqing and gave Fang Yan the greatest support with her own strength. Fang Yan was grateful to the Yi family and even more grateful to Yi Rou. After parting in Huaqing, the two of them had not seen each other for a long time. Fang Yan really wanted to talk to Yi Rou. His Taiji heart had entered the starlight realm, how to develop in the future, which direction to cultivate in, these were all difficult problems for him to solve. Yi Rou was known as the #1 genius of the younger generation in the inner pugilistic world, and also a pioneer on the path of cultivation. She would definitely be able to give him a lot of suggestions and solutions. Clang, clang, clang. Fang Yan knew that this was the sound of shoes stepping on the floor. However, if someone didn't know better, they would definitely think that a big monster had come out from some deep forest to harm people. As expected, Yi Fengxing, who looked the least like a member of the Yi family, walked out casually. He glanced at Fang Yan from the corner of his eyes and said while gritting his teeth, "You're here to see my cousin?" Yi Fengxing was the son of the second of the 3 tigers of the Yi family, Yi Daoist, and also Yi Rou's cousin. The members of the Yi family all had excellent genes. The men were handsome and the women were beautiful. However, when it came to Yi Fengxing, the genes had mutated. Not only was he fat, but he was also ugly. Therefore, when he was young, everyone had been arguing over whether to call him Little Fatty or Little Clown. In the end, they even started fighting. Fang Yan was a firm supporter of Little Fatty, because he felt that calling someone Little Clown was too insulting. He wouldn't do such a thing. Fang Yan pointed at the mountain-like pile of gifts on the table and said, "Do you think this is the style of someone looking for your cousin? Oh, 100-year-old ginseng, a big box of cordyceps, and a pair of deer ears. What's going on? Is your Fang family here to propose marriage?" Even if you're here to propose marriage, it should be Elder Fong himself, right? Yi Fengxing flipped through the pile of gifts and said with a smile. You're not qualified. Whether I'm qualified or not is not up to you to decide. Whether you're qualified to receive me is up to me to decide. Fang Yan stared at Yi Fengxing with an unfriendly gaze and said, I came to visit the elders of the Yi family, and they told you to receive me? No one told me to come out to receive you, Yi Fengxing said. Then why did you come out? I saw that you looked quite pitiful sitting here by yourself, so I came out to talk to you. What's going on? You don't want to? Yi Fengxing acted like he was about to leave and said, If you don't want to, then I'm not going to keep you company. Today I've asked Wan Jing and Li Xiaotian to take care of the sparrows. You sit here first, I'm going to get busy. Wait, Fang Yan shouted. Only then did Yi Fengxing sit back down with a proud expression and said, You don't feel good being ignored by the Yi family, do you? I thought of it when I came here, Fang Yan said seriously. Where's elder ancestor? Is she still in good health? I haven't seen her for a long time, at least let me kowtow to her when I see her, right? The Yi family was a rare family of 4 generations living under the same roof. The elder ancestor was Yi Wenrou and Yi Fengxing's great-grandmother, an old woman who had already lived for more than 100 years. Even now the old woman's teeth were still very good and her mind was quick. When the weather was good she could still be seen looking around and walking around Swallow Dock. If Fang Yan could see her and please her, she could help put in a few words and the grudge between the 2 families would be resolved. Fang Yan's trip would not be in vain. You want to see our elder ancestor? Don't even think about it. On such a cold day she doesn't plan to go out in the warm room and no one dares to let her out. Yi Fengxing mercilessly dispelled this idea of Fang Yan's. Then I'll go to the warm room and kowtow to her, Fang Yan said. The Yi family's warm room, it's not like I haven't been there before. Ha ha, Yi Fengxing pointed at Fang Yan and laughed. You still dare to say you're not here to see my cousin. Chapter 333. Fang Yan's eyes lit up and said, Yi Rou is also in the warm pavilion? Isn't that obvious? The person the ancestor loves the most is my cousin. At this time the ancestor is in the warm pavilion, so of course my cousin has to be in the warm pavilion. Yi Fengxing looked at Fang Yan with disdain and said, Don't tell me you want to pick up my cousin? I have to say I really admire your courage. Competing every year, getting beaten every year, getting beaten every year and still competing every year. You've been beaten by my cousin for so many years, aren't you afraid? I'm not afraid, I'm very grateful to her in my heart. Fang Yan said. Grandfather was right, if there wasn't a strong opponent like Yi Rou, if there wasn't the annual competition between the Yi and Fang families, if there wasn't the worry of being ridiculed and looked down upon, if there wasn't the fear of his face being disfigured and his legs being broken, Fang Yan wouldn't have been able to train as hard as he did before. It was also because of his stubbornness like a fool that he was able to achieve the martial arts he had today at such a young age. It was because he fought like a madman that he had the heart of Tai Chi that allowed people to enter a higher level of the martial arts world. It was also because of his meteoric rise that the pressure on the family due to his father's accident was greatly reduced. Because of his rapid growth, no matter who scolded his grandfather as a cripple or who scolded his father as trash, the Fang family only needed to refute with, My grandson is stronger than you. The Yi family had given the Fang family too much and the Fang family owed Yi Rou too much. Yi Fengxing widened his eyes and looked at Fang Yan and said, Fang Yan, did my sister beat you silly? What did you just say? You thanked my sister? Thanked my sister for beating you? I'm not silly. On the contrary, she beat me until I became smarter. Fang Yan said with a smile. The heart of Tai Chi indeed had the effect of improving the human body's functions and developing the brain's intelligence. With the heart of Tai Chi, Fang Yan was indeed smarter than before. He felt refreshed. Ordinary people would feel more clear-headed when they felt good. This was especially true for martial artists like Fang Yan, whose physical qualities were superior to ordinary people. Fang Yan, who did not have the heart of Taiji, was in the Wonton stage. Most people were in the chaos stage. However, with the heart of Taiji he had reached the realm of enlightenment. Yi Fengxing's mouth was agape for a long time and he forgot to close it. He took a few gulps of cold air before he came to his senses. He stared at Fang Yan warily and said, Fang Yan, tell me, what do you want from us this time? Based on his understanding of Fang Yan, he was a fellow who refused to be taken advantage of, be it in words or actions. It would be like cutting a mosquito's leg if you tried to take advantage of him. Today he gave gifts and expressed his gratitude. His attitude was so humble. What bad intentions did he have? Fang Yan looked at Yi Fengxing helplessly and said, "It's almost the new year, so I just wanted to visit the old man and have a chat with Yi Ruru." Yi Fengxing sneered again and said, "You still want to chase after my sister? I'll say the same thing, you can't see my sister. No one in the Yi clan will object to you except for me." Fang Yan looked at Yi Fengxing and said tenderly, "Fengxing, are we good friends?" Yi Fengxing's hair suddenly stood up. He stared at Fang Yan carefully and said, "You used to call me little fatty. Friend? Forget it, I guess. What do you want?" "I want to talk to your family. Can you help me tell them?" "It's useless. No one wants to object. If you wanted to see them, you would have seen them already. Why did you have to wait here for so long?" "Then why are you taking me to the warm pavilion? Would I dare to take you to the warm pavilion without the ancestors' permission? Would I still want to live? As a friend, are you going to watch me come here for nothing? Are you not willing to help me with anything?" "I'm willing to close my eyes for you," Yi Fengxing said. After saying this joke that he thought was very funny, he noticed that Fang Yan was looking at him with a playful gaze. Yi Fengxing's heart jumped again and said, "Little Fang, don't look at me like that. I feel like you see me as a prey in your cage. You know, I can't help you with anything. Who told me to speak so lightly in the Yi clan? You can obviously help." Fang Yan said. "How? I owe you a favor." Fang Yan said. Yi Fengxing, this big fatso who weighed almost 200 pounds, suddenly jumped up from the rosewood chair and ran out of the hall without looking back. His two fat legs spun in the air as if he was performing some kind of magical footwork. He was indeed using the Yi clan's colorful fallen leaves, which was also a great footwork technique in the inner Jianghu. It wasn't ranked below the Fang clan's plum blossom steps. Moreover, the name of the other's footwork was better and sounded more pretentious. Colorful fallen leaves had the surname Yi in it, but the plum blossom steps didn't have the word Fang in it. However, he was still one step too slow. As soon as he jumped, Fang Yan had already started his attack. He used autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves to slow down Yi Fengxing's escape. Then he attacked Yi Fengxing from behind like a hungry tiger. "Yi Fengxing, I brought a gift as a guest. What right do you have to insult me?" Fang Yan kicked Yi Fengxing's butt. "Yi Fengxing, you despicable person, you dare to hurt people. Don't think that just because this is the Yi clan I'm afraid of you." Fang Yan's fist landed on Yi Fengxing's back, causing him to stumble forward and then fall headfirst into the courtyard's snowy ground. "Yi Fengxing, if you don't give me an explanation today, I'll fight you to the death." When Fang Yan was about to step on Yi Fengxing's back, he felt that this action was a bit too much, so he quickly lay down beside Yi Fengxing and punched him in the back. Yi Fengxing's mouth was filled with ice and snow and he cried out in pain. Fang Yan hugged Yi Fengxing's fat body and punched him in the chest again and again. He shouted hoarsely, "Yi Fengxing, you must give me an explanation today. Your Yi clan must give me an explanation." When Fang Yan was satisfied, a thunderous shout exploded, "Stop!" Fang Yan really stopped. Yi Fengxing, who had broken free, punched Fang Yan in the chest, then pressed his fat body onto Fang Yan's body and grabbed his neck. He shouted, "Fang Yan, I'm going to kill you today." "Pull him away," Yi Daowen said with a frown. Thus, the servants behind him rushed over and pulled Yi Fengxing away from Fang Yan's body. Fang Yan crawled up from the ground, brushed off the ice and snow on his body, and smoothed out the wrinkles on his clothes. He glared at Yi Daowen and said, "Is this how your Yi clan treats its guests? I came to visit with a generous gift, but you refused to see me, not even giving me a cup of hot tea." Fang Yan pointed at Yi Fengxing and sneered, "Letting a despicable person come and mock me and then attack me. Is this how your Yi clan treats its guests? Is this how your Yi clan treats its guests? Am I wrong? Aren't you a coward? Running away from home and refusing to fight? Everyone in Swallow Dock told you to run away, so why can't I? How about I hit you? Are you asking for it? You want to flirt with my cousin? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? You dare to insult me? I'll fight you to the death today." Who's afraid of who? When have the men of the Yi clan been afraid of anyone? "Shut up!" Yi Daowen roared again. "Are you two done with your acting? Fang Yan looked at Yi Dawen with a surprised expression and said, "Uncle Yi, you saw through it. Who can you fool with such insignificant tricks?" Yi Dawen sneered. Fang Yan looked at Yi Fengxing with resentment in his eyes and said, "Fengxing, I told you that your trick of injuring yourself to gain the confidence of others won't work. Such a small trick might work on Li Xiaotian and the others, but trying to trick a dragon among men like Uncle Yi is like playing with a big knife in front of Guan Yu seeking death." Yi Fengxing felt suffocated in his chest and something filled his eyes. He said, "Haven't you achieved your goal? Uncle is coming out." Yi Dawen looked at Yi Fengxing, then looked at Fang Yan. He snorted coldly and said, "What kind of nonsense is this?" Fang Yan stepped forward and bowed respectfully to Yi Dawen and said, "Uncle Yi, I've let you laugh at me. Fengxing is my best friend and he made this suggestion for my sake. Although it's a bit stupid, it's all for my own good. If Uncle Yi wants to blame someone, then blame me." Yi Fengxing's face was ashen. This Fang Ran wasn't like this before. How could he be so shameless? His kung fu had improved greatly after this trip, and even his face had become thicker. Yi Dawen's expression became a bit better. He looked at the young man in front of him and said, "Fang Yan, you guys forced us to come out with this martial act. Now that I'm out, what do you want to talk to me about?" Yi Dawen felt a bit emotional. He was too familiar with this Fang Yan in front of him. There were dozens of children in Swallow Dock who were similar in age to Fang Yan, but Fang Yan was undoubtedly the most special one. And because Fang Yan and his daughter Yi Rou competed in martial arts every year, he understood Fang Yan even more comprehensively. The Fang family's martial arts genius, the leader of Swallow Dock's younger generation, the youngest Dao comprehender in the domain of Tai Chi given time, his achievements would be limitless. However, because of his independence, because of his various shameless and outrageous actions, his character was questioned. You might not like such a young man, but you couldn't ignore him. Because his name would always appear in your ears, and his figure would always appear in front of your eyes. It couldn't be erased and it couldn't be expelled. Yi Dawen asked this question so formally, but Fang Yan didn't know how to answer. After a long silence, he said seriously, "I'm here to find Yi Rou." Chapter 334. The snow stopped for the moment, but it was still cold. Everyone standing in the courtyard felt the cold wind blowing into their necks. Their clothes and skin seemed to be separated into two different extremes, with no intention of warming each other. Logically speaking, whether it was Yi Dawen, Fang Yan, Yi Fengxing, or the Yi family's servants, everyone here practiced martial arts and had strong resistance to the cold. There was no reason for them to feel so cold. However, after hearing Fang Yan say, "I'm here to see Yi Rou," they suddenly felt that the cold was hard to resist. Yi Fengxing quickly signaled to Fang Yan with his eyes and said, "Didn't you say you were going to kowtow to our ancestor? Do you think our ancestor will see you? Hurry up and go back. It's snowing heavily right now and our ancestor won't see outsiders." Yi Dawen frowned slightly. His sharp eyes swept across Fang Yan's face and he didn't say anything for a long time. This arrogant and conceited guy said he was here to see his daughter in front of his father. Isn't he afraid that I'll beat him to death and bury him in the courtyard as fertilizer? What's his relationship with Yi Rou? Did something unpredictable happen in Yi Rou's trip to the City of Flowers? Fang Yan looked at Yi Xingxing gratefully and said, "I originally wanted to say that I'm here to thank the Yi family, but I know that it would be more solemn and respectful if Grandpa said it. In Uncle Ye's eyes, I'm still a child, just a junior. I do want to kowtow to the ancestor. After going out for so long, it's natural for me to kowtow and say some blessings to the old man after coming back. It's also a courtesy that a junior should perform. However, I came to the Yi family to see Yi Rou. I didn't come to challenge her, nor did I come to fight her. We've been fighting for more than 10 years and I've also been beaten by her for more than 10 years. I just want to say thank you. I really am very grateful to her." Fang Yan chose to tell the truth. Fang Yan was a smart person, so he knew from a young age that it was best to be frank and direct when talking to smart people. Most importantly, do not think that you are the smartest person in the world because you do not know who is smarter than you. He didn't think that Yi Dawen was more stupid than him, so he didn't dare to lie in the slightest. If he said that he was here to thank the Yi clan for their kindness, then Yi Dawen would have waved his hand and sent him back. He couldn't see Yi Rou at all. Why? Yi Dawen's brows knit together and the worry in his heart grew even stronger. His daughter was at the most critical stage of her life, and he did not want to be affected by a love entanglement with a young boy. Most importantly, he didn't want that person to be Fang Yan. Fang Yan looked at Yi Daowen with a calm expression. There was no inferiority complex, no shame, no complacency, and no embarrassment. His expression was calm, his eyes pure, as if this matter was reasonable. A person who is willing to continuously beat his defeated opponent for 10 years, Fang Yan said with a smile. I don't think it's easy. It's also something to remember and be grateful for. Yi Daowen's brows relaxed and a rare smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said, Do you understand? I understand. Fang Yan said. The Fang clan has produced an amazing talent. Yi Daowen said with emotion. He turned around to look at Yi Fengxing and said, Go to the warm pavilion and ask the ancestor if she is willing to let the Fang clan's boy go in and kowtow to her. Yi Daowen glanced at Fang Yan, then turned around and left. Yi Fengxing quickly walked in front of Fang Yan, punched Fang Yan's chest and scolded, You bastard, I was almost beaten to death by you just now. Didn't I also lie still and let you punch me a few times to vent your anger? Fang Yan said with a smile. At least you still have some conscience. This was clearly your plan, why did you put it on me? What do you mean by stupid? Would I come up with such a stupid plan? Yi Fengxing said in annoyance. It's also to increase credibility. Besides, if I said I came up with this plan, what would Uncle Yi think of me? He would think you're a despicable person, Yi Fengxing said. If you say I came up with this plan, what would he think of me? He would think that there's something wrong with your IQ. But it shouldn't be because of your character. So you're more suitable than me to take this blame. Yi Fengxing rubbed the sore part of his face and angrily said, Are we really good friends? Why do I feel like I'm the one who treats you as a friend, but you don't treat me as a friend at all? If I didn't treat you as a good friend, would I trick you? Fang Yan softly comforted, Of course not. Those who aren't my good friends don't have the right to be tricked by me. You tricked Bai Xiu. You tricked Bai Li Lu. You tricked Lu Jing. You tricked Li Xiaotian. Don't tell me you treat them as good friends. Everything has two sides, you're different from them, Fang Yan hurriedly explained. You're the fatso with the most sense of justice in my heart. Yi Fengxing sighed and said, Wait here, I'll go to the warm pavilion and ask for you. Wait. Fang Yan shouted. He ran to the living room and took out the large pile of gifts from the table, stuffed them all into Yi Fengxing's arms and said, Tell the ancestor, just say that this is my filial gift to her. Be more subtle, don't say it too bluntly, it's like we're showing off. Yi Fengxing helplessly shook his head and said, How could she refuse you like this? Then don't refuse, Fang Yan said with a smile. The warm pavilion was very large, made up of several connected rooms. There was a fire dragon burning under the room, so the room was as warm as spring, very comfortable. And because the ground heating was very dry, there were many green plants planted on the left and right sides of the main room. Red peppers, green cucumbers, and a ground full of big watermelons, looking red and green alternating, growing delightfully. In one of the rooms, an old lady was picking cucumbers on her toes. Yi Ro was carrying a small basket next to her. The basket was already half full of tender cucumbers. Wash them with snow water, take a bite or mix them with sauce. They were all excellent dishes to go with wine. The maid was standing on the side, chattering, reporting what she had just seen to the ancestor and the eldest Mississippi. Originally, no one paid attention to him. I also thought he would feel bored after a while and leave by himself. I didn't expect young Master Fengxing to leave. Young Master Fengxing chatted with him for a while. I don't know what they said, but Feng Paopai and young Master Fengxing started to fight. It seems that young Master Fengxing insulted him and also scolded him. Isn't he Feng Paopai? People in Swallow Dock all call him that. Later, the eldest master came out. He asked Sichuan and Yi Ming to separate them, and now he is talking with Feng Paopai. I saw Feng Paopai glanced at me and then he ran away quickly. The ancestor picked a cucumber with a small flower and put it in the basket, glanced at Yi Ro who was carrying the basket and said, In order to force his grandson to work hard, Grandpa provoked our Yi family for 10 years. Since you defeated him for the first time, your father and the others were ready to ignore this matter. But you couldn't stand the provocation, so you competed with him for 10 years. In this way you got yourself a bad reputation of barbarism and violence, but you were still entangled with the Fong family and couldn't get away. When people talked about the Yi family, they would inevitably mention the Fong family. When the Fong family was mentioned, they would inevitably mention our Yi family. The competition between you two every year became an interesting story outside. Because of this, your father and his two brothers were very angry. Why did they entangle with the Fong family for no reason? Yi Rou opened her mouth slightly, but she didn't say anything in the end. She didn't like to explain. The ancestor didn't need her to explain. She quietly carried the basket with an indifferent expression and lowered her eyelids. The white snow outside the window reflected her snow-white cheeks, making her whole body covered with a layer of white light. She was like the white plum tree in the yard, which was still silently blooming in the wind and snow. From a distance, it was a tree of snowflakes, but when you walked closer, you would find that there were one or two countless white flowers blooming on the pitch-black branches. They were as white as the snow, but the snow lost the fragrance of the yard. Whoever planted the crops, who harvested the millet. Whoever planted the seedlings, who picked the melons and fruits. If you had stopped after winning the first competition 10 years ago, there wouldn't have been such a thing later. Since you have been fighting with him for 10 years, it is also fate and you have to end these things by yourself. The old lady's hair was thin and silver like the fishing line used for fishing. Her skin was dry without any moisture, but the smile on her face was warm and peaceful. She had lived for 100 years, been exposed to wind and rain for 100 years, and witnessed the changes of the world for 100 years. Her eyes were sharper than everyone else's and she was more accurate in judging people. Yi Rou still didn't speak. Dong dong dong. Yi Fengxing trembled as he walked in. Seeing the ancestor who was picking cucumbers, he carried a large pile of gifts and ran over saying, "Ancestor, Fong Yan went out for a trip and today he came to visit saying that he wants to kowtow to you." He used his chin to point at the gifts in his arms and said, "These are all sent by him saying that they are gifts for the ancestor. Eldest uncle told me to ask the ancestor, do you want him to go into the warm pavilion and kowtow to you?" After saying that, he handed the gifts to Sheer beside him, and then waited expectantly for the ancestor's reply. The ancestor picked another cucumber and held it in her hand. She used her rough palm to stroke the fine thorns on the cucumber, then turned to look at Yi Rou and said, "Whether to see him or not, it is up to you to decide." Chapter 335. Yi Fengxing glanced at Fong Yan as he led the way. Fong Yan grew impatient and said, "What are you trying to say? What's your relationship with my sister?" Yi Fengxing asked in confusion. When the ancestor asked Yi Rou if she wanted to see Fong Yan, Yi Rou said, "I beat him up for 10 years. It's too easy for him to come here and kowtow to me." Although her words were belittling to Fong Yan, she still asked the ancestor to see Fong Yan. This question confused Fong Yan. What was his relationship with Yi Rou? Friends? Not really. She used to be the person he hated the most. If Yi Rou was the second most hated person in his heart, then no one could be the first. Of course, with the addition of the general's order, he firmly occupied the first position, which was as stable as Mount Tai. He wouldn't be shaken in a short time. Enemy? It wasn't appropriate to say that. Fong Yan knew she wasn't his enemy. Which enemy would risk their life to save the other when they were in danger? Strangers? No, Yi Rou was definitely the person and woman Fong Yan was most familiar with in the world. Fong Yan hesitated for a long time and said with certainty, "Comrades. We are comrades." "Comrades?" Yi Fengxing opened his mouth and said, "What comrades? Why do I feel like you're up to no good?" Flap. Fong Yan slapped Yi Fengxing's fat head. Because his head was too big and his neck was too thick, he couldn't dodge Fong Yan's attack at all. Fong Yan was so angry that his face turned purple and his body trembled. He said, "Don't insult the pure friendship between me and your sister." Yi Fengxing was furious and said, "You already said we're comrades. How can it be pure friendship?" Yi Fengxing. A cold voice was heard. Yi Fengxing heard the familiar voice. His face twisted and his fat twitched. He was so scared that he didn't even dare to turn his head. He knew he was tricked by Fong Yan again. He clearly saw his cousin in front of him, but he still tried to tempt her to say such words. "Let me tell you, Fong Yan. You can insult me, but you can't insult my sister. Otherwise, as your brother, I won't let you off." Yi Fengxing pretended that he didn't hear what Fong Yan said and threatened Fong Yan with a flushed face. After saying this, he turned to look at Yi Ro and said with a surprised expression, "Sister, why did you come out? Hurry inside, it's cold outside." Yi Ro didn't respond. She just looked at Fang Yan indifferently. Fang Yan also looked at Yi Ro. Their eyes met and fought. In a world of ice and snow, everything was white. The ice spines hung upside down and the well water froze. The snow under his feet was like a white carpet and the snow in the sky was like flying cotton. A white plum tree quietly bloomed. The white flowers could not be seen, but one could smell the fragrance that filled the courtyard. One was a handsome young man and the other was a beautiful girl. A great battle could break out at any moment and the atmosphere was oppressive to the extreme. Fang Yan threw a, "I haven't seen your eyes for a long time," but it was sent flying by Yi Ro's, "I hate your eyes when I see you." Fang Yan didn't give up and used beautiful eyes again. Yi Ro was furious and directly used get out of here eyes to cut him into pieces. Fang Yan didn't want to be outdone. He used his ultimate skill, "How will I live without you?" and silently sent it over. Yi Ro used "Go to hell eyes, blind your dog eyes, you despicable, dirty, shameless bastard eyes," and other killer moves, but still couldn't defeat Fang Yan's ultimate skill. This round Fang Yan won. Yi Fengxing looked at Fang Yan, then looked at Yi Ro and asked with confusion, "What are you two doing?" Fang Yan glanced at him with disdain and didn't waste time to explain anything to him. His level was too low, so he didn't know that an earth-shattering battle had just happened in front of him. Fang Yan looked at Yi Ro and said, "You came to pick me up?" Yi Ro's expression was slightly stiff. She didn't know how to answer his question. She did come out to welcome Fang Yan. Fang Yan came to kowtow to the ancestor with generous gifts. The ancestor didn't need to come out to welcome him, but as a junior she had to come out to show her acceptance and gratitude. However, Fang Yan said receive instead of welcome. If she nodded, it would feel like a little wife coming to take her husband home. Fang Yan strode toward Yi Ro and said with a smile, "We're family, no need to be so polite. Long time no see, how are you?" "I'm fine," Yi Ro said. "As long as you're fine," Fang Yan said. "I have a lot to say to you, a lot of questions to ask." Yi Ro blushed, then instantly returned to her original indifference. She was annoyed and thought, "What's wrong with this guy? This is the Yi clan, how dare he say something like this? Isn't he afraid that the Yi clan will beat him to death and bury him as fertilizer for the flowers?" She clenched and unclenched her fists, feeling a little uneasy. In the past she didn't know what uneasiness was because there was nothing worth her uneasiness. However, at that moment she understood. "I'll go kowtow to the ancestor first, then we'll go for a walk," Fang Yan said. "Shihezi is frozen, let's go skating, okay?" Fang Yan knew she wouldn't agree, but she didn't refuse. Yi Fengxing's eyes widened, looking at Fang Yan as if he had seen a ghost. "My cousin beat up Fang Yan like that and he still wants to hit on my cousin? Didn't he see that my cousin's face was red with anger? Didn't he know that my cousin's fists were clenched?" Fang Yan glanced at Yi Fengxing and said, "Fengxing, let's go kowtow to the ancestor." Yi Fengxing finally reacted and carefully looked at his cousin. Then he took Fang Yan around where his cousin was standing and went into the pavilion to kowtow to the ancestor. Fang Yan saw the white-haired old man sitting on the pit eating cucumber and fell to his knees. After kowtowing 3 times he got up and said, "Ancestor, Fang Yan kowtows to you. Your complexion is getting better and younger than the last time I saw you. Ancestor should be 80 years old this year, right?" The ancestor took a bite of cucumber and chewed it with the 2 remaining teeth in her mouth. She looked at Fang Yan and said, "The Fang clan's boy is thoughtful, but his flattery isn't good. If I was only 80 years old, would Wenro's grandfather call me sister or mother?" Yi Ro, who was standing beside the ancestor, couldn't help laughing. She originally wanted to endure it, but she really couldn't. A beauty's smile was like a flower and all flowers were colorless. It was the first time that Fang Yan saw Yi Ro smile so happily and joyfully. She tried hard to control it, but she couldn't. That embarrassed and angry expression added a touch of cuteness to her. At this moment Yi Ro was really cute. Thus for the first time Fang Yan found Yi Ro quite cute. Fang Yan looked at Yi Ro with a dull expression, and the others also looked at Fang Yan with dull expressions. This guy, didn't he know what restraint was? Yi Fengxing snorted twice and reminded, "Fang Yan, the ancestor is asking you." He somewhat regretted bringing Fang Yan to see the ancestor. The ancestor usually treasured his cousin the most. If she saw Fang Yan's perverted appearance, she only needed to complain, and it was estimated that Fang Yan and the Fang clan would not be able to enter the Yi clan in the future. If he wanted to pick up girls, he could do it anywhere. Why did he come to the house? Ask me what? Fang Yan turned around and asked blankly. Thus this time not only Yi Ro was laughing but even the ancestor was laughing from ear to ear. Xier, who was sitting by the bed and massaging the ancestor's legs, also laughed, and Yi Fengxing laughed so hard that his eyes couldn't be found. The ancestor pointed at Fang Yan, panted and said, "You hairy monkey, you just came to make me laugh, right?" Fang Yan also laughed and said, "When you laugh you look 10 years younger. When you laugh like this you look 10 years younger. Now you are only 70 years old. Make it up. You can continue to make up stories." The old ancestor couldn't eat the cucumber anymore and said with a smile. Fang Yan had a troubled expression and said, "Ancestor, I really can't make it up anymore. You look like 70 years old. If I make it up again then I'll be lying to you." The entire room was filled with laughter. Fang Yan was basically a crosstalk actor brought back by Monkey Sunday. After everyone laughed for a while, the ancestor looked at Fang Yan and said, "I heard you went to Huaqing to be a teacher?" "Yes, ancestor," Fang Yan nodded. "Being a teacher is a serious matter. Teaching and dispelling doubts is a great merit," the ancestor said. "I've never thought about merit, I just like being a teacher. I'm very happy when I'm with my students, I like their innocent smiles. When I'm with them I don't have any worries, every day is very fulfilling," Fang Yan said in a very noble manner. The ancestor was stunned for a while, then said, "I originally thought of a few words to praise you, but after you said that I can't even say those words. All right, you've kowtowed, you've said everything you need to say, go do what you need to do. Then I won't disturb ancestor from eating the cucumber," Fang Yan said with a smile. He walked in front of Yi Ro and said, "Let's go ice skating?" Yi Ro looked at Fang Yan and didn't respond. "This bastard son of a bitch. Is this how you invite people? You're saying this in front of the ancestor, how can I say yes? Didn't we agree just now?" Fang Yan was anxious. "I really have a lot of things I want to say to you, a lot of questions I want to ask you." The ancestor looked at Fang Yan in surprise. "Why does it feel like he's about to confess?" Yi Ro clenched her fist and said angrily, "What do you want to say? Say it here." "That won't do," Fang Yan refused. "These words can only be said to you alone." Chapter 336. Xianxia was a river. Fang Yan didn't know why it was called this way. Maybe it was because the name was so common that no one even made up a suitable fairy or ghost story for her. There were many stones in Xianxia and there were strange stones on both sides of the river. The river was frozen and the ice was very thick. Several urchins were skating on the riverbank. They were playing at an advanced level. Throw a smooth wooden board on the ice and one person squatted on the board. On each side, a child pulled the child squatting on the board and ran forward. After running for a while, they suddenly flung the child's hand forward, and the wooden board rushed forward with a swoosh sound. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. There were also two little girls riding bicycles on the ice. Riding a bicycle was more advanced than skating on a board and it was more difficult. However, the two children were obviously experts. They dashed left and right and made difficult movements from time to time, laughing proudly like silver bells. Fang Yan and Yi Ro took a stroll by the stone river. The cold wind was biting cold and the fine snowflakes were fluttering in the air. Their shoes made a crunching sound as they stepped on the snow. Every step they took didn't even reach their knees. The snow came very early today and it was very heavy. Fang Yan pointed at the urchins on the river and said, "Shall we go skating too?" Yi Ro didn't answer. "This idiot wants me to skate with a group of children? Let's go for a walk." Fang Yan also didn't think this suggestion was very good. What's the matter with the two of us running into a group of children? They were all famous people now. Yi Ro was the number one among the young generation in the inner world and he was tied for the number one with her. When the group of children saw Fang Yan, they actually shouted in unison. "Run Fang, look, it's Run Fang. Run Fang, you're back again. Run Fang, are you going to skate again this time?" "These children," Fang Yan said with a smile. No. Yi Rou didn't respond. Instead, she looked at those children with interest and smiled, as if it was a very happy thing for them to laugh at Fang Yan. Fang Yan, how dare you be with Sister Rou Ruru? Aren't you afraid that Sister Rou Ruru will hit you again? The little girl on the bicycle stopped her bike and shouted at Fang Yan with one foot on the ground. Fang Yan was infuriated. Even these brats dared to bully him. He bent down and picked up a handful of snow from the ground. Then he squeezed the snow into a snowball and threw it at the little girl with two pigtails. Pa! Fang Yan's aim was excellent. The snowball just fell on the little girl's head. The little girl screamed and cursed. Ran Fang, how dare you hit me? She threw the bike on the ice, then rushed over to grab a snowball and threw it at Fang Yan. When the other children saw that there was a more fun game, they immediately joined in. So a group of children chased after Fang Yan and smashed at him. Fang Yan fought back and ran away with his head in his hands. From time to time, the children's laughter and the screams of someone who was hit by a snowball could be heard. The group of people had a lot of fun. Yi Rou stood in place and didn't join in the fight. She had a gentle and indifferent smile on her face, like a mother watching her children play with each other. Pop! A snowball hit Yi Rou's face. Yi Rou was furious and looked around for the culprit. The little girl with pigtails pointed at Fang Yan, indicating that he was the one who hit her. Yi Rou bent down and picked up a snowball. She aimed at the back of Fang Yan's head and threw it at him. Pop! Fang Yan's head was hit. Fang Yan had been guarding in front and didn't expect a sneak attack from behind. He turned around and saw Yi Rou bending down to pick up a second snowball. He hurriedly shouted, Yi Rou, how can you sneak attack? You hit me first. Yi Rou threw a snowball at Fang Yan. The children's snowballs were easy to dodge, but Yi Rou's snowballs seemed to have eyes and couldn't be avoided. Two snowballs hit him in a row and Fang Yan cried out in pain. When did I hit you? Yi Rou, are you sure you're not mistaken? Fang Yan shouted as he fought back. Yi Rou really couldn't be sure if it was Fang Yan who hit her. She had been thinking about something. Although her eyes were focused on the fight, she didn't notice the surrounding scene. She looked at the little girl with pigtails again. The little girl, Fang Menjing, said in a crisp voice, Sister Rou, it was Fang Yan who hit you, I saw it. Yi Rou nodded and threw the third snowball in her hand without hesitation. Because of Yi Rou's participation, the children who were at a disadvantage suddenly became the victors. Fang Yan was busy dodging Yi Rou's attacks or fighting back, but the children's snowballs flew toward him. The fight ended. Fang Yan was covered in wounds and became the biggest loser. As he shook the snow off his neck, he shouted at the girl with pigtails, Fang Menjing, come over here and tell me clearly, who hit Yi Rou? It's you. Fang Menjing giggled. Anyway, we all saw it, it was you, you're my cousin, Fang Yan said. Fang Menjing was his aunt's daughter and also his cousin. Because the person his aunt married also had the surname Fang, her surname still followed their surname. But I can't lie, Fang Menjing said. She waved at her friends and said, let's go skating. And so the group of children once again rushed toward the river. Fang Yan looked helplessly at Yi Rou and said, it really wasn't me who hit you. They wronged me. I know, Yi Rou said expressionlessly. But her current expressionless face was different from before. Before, her expressionless face gave people a feeling of coldness. Now her expressionless face gave people a feeling of joy. She didn't smile on her face, but Fang Yan felt that she must be smiling in her heart. You knew. Fang Yan had a face of astonishment. You knew and you still hit me so hard. Those children and you, Yi Rou said. It's easier to hit you. It's easier to hit me? You can't bully me like this, right? Yi Rou started walking again. She wore a white casual outfit. Her clothes were thin, but she didn't feel cold at all. Her short hair flew in the wind and slapped against her face, making her look beautiful and sorrowful. What do you want to say to me? Yi Rou asked casually. Fang Yan walked to the side of Yi Rou. No matter where, a man should always stand to the side of a woman. You left in a hurry last time, so I didn't even have a chance to treat you to a meal. To be honest, I didn't expect you to go to Huaqing. I didn't even think that someone would go there. I was ready to face this challenge alone. I can't say that I was ready. It's just that I had escaped once at that time, so I couldn't escape again no matter what. I would either die standing or die fighting. I felt that I should pluck up my courage for once. At that time I was giving a big class to the students. My class was good and the students liked it, so the principal forced me to give a big class to the students twice a week. The day you went there was the first time I gave a big class to the students. Fang Yan talked endlessly, talking about whatever came to his mind. It was like two best friends chatting about their daily lives, or a couple reuniting after a long separation. When you suddenly walked in, my mind went blank. I forgot what I said before and I didn't know what to say next. You don't know what happened later. After you left, many people went to look for you. There were also many boys who regarded you as their crush, and they gave you the nickname Queen in Black. Yi Rou glanced at Fang Yan and didn't answer, waiting for him to continue. The two idiots, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen, thought that I would be no match for the Chiba army, so they came up with such a stupid way to expel the Chiba army. They didn't know that even if they succeeded, we would still lose the battle. It was even worse than when I was beaten up by the Chiba army in person. I didn't expect that you would also appear that night. If you hadn't shown up, I'm afraid that Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen would have suffered a great loss. They were afraid of you, but they liked you more. I showed up because I wanted to, Yi Rou said. No one said that I couldn't challenge the Chiba army. And no one said that I couldn't challenge the Chiba army before your final battle. I just happened to meet those two idiots. I know. Fang Yan nodded repeatedly. I know you won't admit that you actually care about me, and I can pretend that I don't understand. Don't mess with me. Yi Rou stared at Fang Yan and said. I didn't mess with you, Fang Yan said seriously. I used to mess with you a lot, but that's because I hated you. I hated that you were too powerful, I hated that you were merciless, and I hated that you made me lose every time we competed. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for beating me up for 10 years and forcing me to improve. Thank you for allowing me to possess the heart of Taiji. Thank you for coming all the way to Huaqing to help me. Thank you even more for making the Fang family different from before. Yi Rou was silent and didn't speak. What's wrong? Fang Yan looked at Yi Rou and asked. He felt that her expression was very strange. Shouldn't she say something when he thanked her so deeply and sincerely? Fang Yan, Yi Rou said softly. It seemed that she had finally made up her mind. Okay, Fang Yan replied happily. Go on, Yi Rou said. What? I'm not used to you being like this, Yi Rou said. Chapter 337. Yi Rou's expression was very serious, as if she was talking about the fact that she was a woman. It proved that she was not joking. Fang Yan's change really troubled her. He thought he was good before. Fang Yan habitually acted lowly and she habitually beat up the lowly Fang Yan. Then, a matter was perfectly resolved through the interaction between the two of them. Fang Yan suddenly stopped being cheap and started to express his feelings. She didn't know how to communicate with him. However, they still needed to communicate. If they didn't say or do anything, wouldn't that be too disrespectful? She was not a person who liked to change. The winter wind blew, the snowflakes drifted, the birds flew over and countless horses ran by. Fang Yan trembled in the wind for a long time, and then he said in a hoarse voice, I'm not very good at what you said. Well, Yi Rou thought for a while and said, you were good before. Good? Then why did you beat me? Except beating you. Yi Rou felt embarrassed to answer such a question because the truth was actually very hurtful. I don't know what I should do. Fang Yan used to think that he was the one who ended the conversation. But after meeting Yi Rou, he realized that there was a big gap between him and Yi Rou. Then there was a long silence. Fang Yan didn't know what to say to Yi Rou, and Yi Rou certainly wouldn't take the initiative to talk to Fang Yan. Crack, crack. Their shoes stepped on the snow, making a clear and melodious sound. Behind them, there were two lines of footprints of different sizes on the white mirror-like snow. The footprints were very long, extending to the end of their sight. Just when the two of them started counting their steps out of boredom, Fang Yan's nostrils suddenly caught a whiff of a strange fragrance. He sniffed greedily and finally confirmed the source of the smell. Fang Yan looked at Yi Rou and said, I wanted to treat you to a meal, but I never had the chance. How about I treat you to lunch today? Lunch? Yi Rou looked at Fang Yan hesitantly. She wasn't sure if she should follow Fang Yan back to his house for a meal. If she agreed, the meaning would be too much for onlookers to interpret. The people in her family must be going crazy, right? Although she didn't care much about it, it was still not good for the Fang family. Follow me, Fang Yan said with a smile. He wanted to hold Yi Rou's hand, because the male lead in the TV series always liked to hold the female lead's hand and run forward when he wanted to take her somewhere. Why did he have to run? Because when they ran, they could conveniently hold each other's hands. If they were just walking, it would be hard to hide their shameless behavior, right? However, he couldn't stretch his hand out no matter how hard he tried. Should I give you my hand? Yi Rou asked coldly. Of course not, Fang Yan said. He was a little disappointed. How could he be found out about his psychological activities? Fang Yan didn't take Yi Rou back to the Fang family for a meal because he knew what it meant. Besides, he knew that if he made such a request, Yi Rou would definitely refuse. Fang Yan had a very sensitive nose. He sniffed the fragrance in the wind and searched all the way. Sure enough, he found a stone house in the hollow at the end of Shihizi. In fact, it wasn't a stone house at all. It was just a stone wall about 1 meter high built by some broken stones. It was surrounded on 3 sides and one side was empty. There was no roof on the wall so the snowflakes could fall in freely. When Fang Yan walked over with Yi Rou, he saw several people lying on the edge of the stone house with their butts up. They didn't know what they were doing sneakily and they laughed like wolves from time to time. Hearing the footsteps behind him, a young man wearing a leather hat looked back, and then his expression became weird. The others felt something was wrong. They looked back together and looked at the 2 uninvited guests with the same surprised expression. Did we come at the right time? Fang Yan asked with a smile. Run Fang, why are you here? Li Xiaotian, wearing a leather hat, stood up with a black ball of mud in his hand. I smelled it, Fang Yan said. He strode over and grabbed the mud ball from Li Xiaotian's hand saying, Are you all full? Give this to me. I have to treat you at noon. You're treating us with this? Zhu Ziden looked at Fang Yan in surprise and then looked at Yi Rou who was standing behind Fang Yan. Although Yi Rou was also a member of Swallow Dock, she was not the same kind of person as them. It was not only because of the Yi family's prestige, but also because Yi Rou was a genius girl. Genius girls were always lonely. No one wanted to be friends with her, so she enjoyed herself and never joined anyone's circle. As a result, everyone in Swallow Dock knew Yi Rou's name. They respected her, feared her, and even worshipped her, but no one wanted to be friends with her. Everyone thought that a person like her didn't need friends. However, if Yi Rou agreed to accept someone's invitation, then any young man of the right age in Swallow Dock would have to dress up, book a private room on the first floor of Yanjing, or invite the top chef of Swallow Dock, Madame Hua, to prepare a feast. How could they be so casual? This is good. It's natural. Fang Yan said with a smile. He knocked open the mud ball and took out a small round ball wrapped in lotus leaves. Before the lotus leaves were opened, a rich fragrance of meat and lotus wafted out. When Fang Yan peeled off the outer layer of lotus leaves, a bird with its feathers plucked appeared in front of everyone. Its skin and flesh were yellow, smooth and tender. It was not scorched or tough, just right. Steam rose from the bird's body, and the steam was also fragrant, arousing people's appetite. They couldn't help but swallow their saliva secretly. Fang Yan kicked Li Xiaoan again and said, Where's the material? You must have prepared it. Give it to me. Li Xiaotian had no choice but to hand over a glass jar in the stone house. Inside the glass jar was the chili sauce made by Grandma Wang. It was spicy and fragrant. A little bit of it could make people sweat and shout with satisfaction. It was a must for barbecue, and Fang Yan and the others had eaten it many times before. Fang Yan unscrewed the glass jar, dipped the brush into the chili sauce, and smeared the whole body of the bird in his hand. After completing the whole process, Fang Yan handed the bird on the lotus leaf to Yi Rou. Try it, Fang Yan said with a smile. I'll treat you to lunch. Yi Rou frowned. She looked at the bird in Fang Yan's hand but didn't reach out to take it. We used to eat like this, said Fang Yan. Don't worry. It's very clean. Li Xiaotian said hurriedly, Yes, we were going to eat it ourselves. We washed it many times. Yi Rou took it, tore a piece of meat with her fingers and put it in her mouth. Spicy. Her first reaction was that it was spicy. It was like someone threw a chili bomb into her mouth. With a boom, it exploded, waking up all her internal organs, blood, skin and hair. When one's forehead was covered in sweat, and when one's mouth and taste buds gradually adapted to the spiciness, one would notice that the fragrance of the meat and lotus leaves lingered in one's mouth, lingering for a long time without dispersing. Where was the meat? The meat had already slipped into her stomach when she put it in her mouth. She didn't even have the chance to chew and swallow. The chili sauce was very spicy and the meat was fragrant and pure. Yiro had never eaten something like this before. She even thought it was the most delicious thing she had ever eaten. How do you feel? Fang Yan looked at Yiro expectantly. He was like a child giving his favorite toy to another child to try, waiting expectantly for her comment or appreciation. That would give him an unparalleled sense of satisfaction. Yiro didn't speak. She didn't even wipe the sweat on her forehead. Instead, she tore another piece of meat and put it in her mouth. Therefore, the excitement and enjoyment from just now repeated again. Li Xiaotian also had a rare opportunity to get in touch with the goddess of Swallow Dock. He rummaged in the stone house with his butt up and found a warm bottle of Shadozi. He wiped the dust off the bottle with his sleeve, unscrewed the cap and handed it to Yiro, saying, "Another bottle of Shadozi. I wouldn't trade it for a god." Yiro loved wine. Not only did she like it, but she also had a great capacity for it. After carefully tasting the taste of the bird in her mouth, she raised the bottle and gulped it down. She drank more than half of the bottle in one gulp. Everyone was stunned. Fang Yan didn't bother to tell them that Yiro was fine after drinking a couple of caddies of Shadozi when she competed with the old drunkard. Fang Yan looked at Li Xiaoan and said, "Is there any more? Give me a ball." "Any more?" Li Xiaotian turned around and asked. Wan Jing rummaged in the fire pit for a while and said, "There's only one left. The snow is so heavy that I don't know where the sparrows have gone. I didn't catch many." Fang Yan took the lump of soil, knocked off the soil skillfully, peeled off the lotus leaves and smeared the chili sauce on it. Then he started to eat it. Spicy. Fragrant. A familiar taste. He took the bottle from Yiro and said, "Leave some for me." Then he raised his head and poured the rest of the Shadozi into his mouth. Yiro was stunned when she saw him drinking. She was drinking it into her mouth and he was drinking it into his mouth too. That was to say, they were both drinking it into their mouths. What a coincidence. Yiro didn't say anything in the end because it would only make her more embarrassed. After eating the skin and flesh of the bird, she found that the internal organs were still intact, and there were some herbs and spices beside the organs. These guys are really good at eating. Yiro also ate the internal organs and greedily licked the minced meat and oil on her fingers. She looked at Fang Yan with sparkling eyes and said, "If you want to treat me, you should at least let me eat my fill, right?" Chapter 338. In a world of ice and snow, eating beggar's sparrow and drinking Shadozi was indeed one of the greatest pleasures in life. Yiro's lips were rosy and shiny. She was like a hungry puppy looking at her master pitifully. "I have to fill my stomach, right? Yes, I have to fill my stomach, right? Isn't it too insincere to treat people without filling their stomachs?" Yiro's question really embarrassed Fang Yan. He turned to Li Xiaotan, who shook his head and pointed at the half-sparrow in Fang Yan's hand, saying, "That's the last one." To prove that he didn't hide it, Li Xiaotian openly ran to the stone house and dug out the grass ashes. He kicked out the burning firewood and charcoal ashes. It was empty inside and there were no more lumps of mud. Fang Yan handed the half-sparrow to Yiro. Yiro shook her head. There was only a small part of the sparrow left in Fang Yan's hand, and Fang Yan ate it carelessly. Others tore the meat with their hands, but he bit the meat with his mouth. Who would want to eat such a bird? Fang Yan quickly stuffed the remaining half of the sparrow into his mouth. After wiping his hands with snow, he pulled Li Xiaotan and Zhu Xian aside for a secret talk. "Brothers, do me a favor," Fang Yan said with a bitter face. "She's not full." "Of course," Li Xiaotian said. "You invited Miss Yi to dinner and this is what you want? She's rejected by a bird? Isn't that too much?" "That's right. If she accepts my invitation, I'll treat her to the best hotel in Yanjing, the state guest house." Zhu Xian was also very dissatisfied with Fang Yan's behavior. Yiro was their goddess. How could she be insulted like this? "If I were Yiro, I would turn around and leave." "Who would want to eat your bird?" Wan Jing sighed. They not only looked down on Fang Yan, but also on Fang Yan's bird. All right, don't fight for her. What is primitive? What was fun? This was the original ecology, this was the interest. What do you old virgins know? Can't you see how much she likes to eat? This proves that my choice is correct. Fang Yan said angrily. When a friend is in trouble you have to help him. She's not full. You guys have to help her find a way to fill her stomach. What else can we do? Li Xiaotian said with a smile. It's not like we can conjure a few birds for her to roast. Hearing Li Xiaotian's words, Fang Yan's eyes lit up and he asked, Where did your bird come from? Nonsense, of course it's to capture. You're talking like you've never done it before. Then let's go catch it, Fang Yan said. He looked at the bamboo poles and the big net on the side and said, The tools are all ready-made. Shall we go and fish the net now? Li Xiaodan, Zhu Xian and the others stared at Fang Yan and said, Little Yanzi, are you kidding me? Catch birds now? Beauty. Clean them up after capturing them? Roast it after washing it? How long will it take? I'm afraid it'll be time for dinner. I don't care how long it takes. Fang Yan said excitedly. Anyway, I've just eaten a bird, so I won't be too hungry. Let's go to the bamboo forest with the tools and fish some birds back to make dishes. Wanjing, go back and get some wine, lotus leaves, spices and chili sauce. I'll leave the logistics to you. No choice. Wanjing nodded. He was the smallest in the team and was responsible for passing messages and running errands when there were group activities. The rest of you go to the bamboo forest. Fang Yan gave the order without hesitation. No one refuted Fang Yan's words. They carried the tools and walked to the bamboo forest not far away. They used to do this kind of thing often, so it was a piece of cake for them now. Fang Yan walked to Yi Rou and said with a smile, Are you interested in chasing birds? Chasing birds? Yi Rou's eyes lit up even more. It seemed that she was really interested in this kind of thing. The so-called chasing birds was to drive the birds into the big net they set up. It was the same principle as chasing fish in a pond. The difference was that the fish were driven in the water while the birds were driven in the sky. They set up a huge net on one side of the forest and fixed it with 2 huge bamboo poles. The place Fang Yan and the others chose to chase the birds was the wild bamboo forest. The dense bamboo forest was the natural prey for the wild birds. Fang Yan and Yi Rou were in one group, Zhu Xian and Qinhua were in another group, and Li Xiaotian and his brother Li Xiaoyi were in another group. The last person was responsible for watching the net. If the bamboo poles fell and the net was broken, their hard work would be in vain. Then the 3 groups set out from 3 directions into the depths of the bamboo forest, waving the long bamboo poles in their hands. Fang Yan slammed the bamboo pole into the bamboo forest, and the birds scattered in all directions. Yi Rou had already understood the principle of chasing birds. It was actually a U-shaped encirclement, and the only exit was to set up a big net to catch the panicked sparrows. Yi Rou also raised a bamboo pole and patted it in the other direction of the bamboo forest. Fang Yan patted it to the left. Yi Rou patted it to the right. The two looked at each other. Fang Yan grinned, and Yi Rou's eyes also had a gentle smile. Oh, I'm the king of the mountain. Li Xiaotian's howl came from the east. What king of the mountain is a wolf? I'm the evil tiger coming down from the mountain. Oh, I'm here too. Are you guys scared? Zhu Xiaoyi's howl came from the west. Yi Rou patted it again and said, They all have lines to say when they enter the forest. Do you have yours? Why would I do such a childish thing? Fang Yan denied it with extreme determination. Those guys are so embarrassing. Aren't they afraid of being laughed at? Really? Yi Rou pursed her lips and chuckled. I think Zhu Xian and the others will be happy to tell me that. I have one too. Fang Yan said with a sad face, but it's more high-end than theirs. It's not as idiotic as their animal names. Is that so? What's your line? Fang Yan patted it with his pole and shouted, Autobots, start the engines, transform, let's go. Boom boom boom. Yi Rou laughed and fell to the ground. With 3 quick attacks, the wild birds in the bamboo forest screamed and rushed toward the only exit. Gwa. Then they let out even more panicked screams, because they suddenly found that their movements were restricted. They crawled into the transparent holes. Their heads went out, but their wings couldn't break through the grid. The harder they struggled, the stiffer their bodies became. Some of them strangled themselves to death. Today's luck was pretty good. This net was quite rewarding. With Fang Yan's eyes, there were hundreds of birds in the net. If they cleaned up all of them, they could probably eat for a few days. A group of people stood under the net, admiring the fruits of their labor. Zhu Xian and Li Xiaotian were ecstatic, saying, "We're so lucky this net. We only caught a few dozen birds on the previous attempt." That idiot Li Xiaoyi accidentally opened a corner of the net when he retracted his pole, and more than half of them escaped. Otherwise that net would have been enough for us to eat. This net is enough for us to eat for a few days until Chinese New Year's Eve, Li Xiaotian laughed. Brothers, let's get to work. Chirp, chirp, chirp. The sparrows couldn't do anything else and could only call out urgently. Quack, quack, quack. The cries of the colorful forest birds were also getting more and more miserable. Some of the birds managed to escape, only to find that their parents were trapped in the net. They circled around their mothers and screamed, unwilling to fly away by themselves. Brothers, retract the net, Li Xiaotian waved his hand and shouted, then ran towards the pole. These birds gathered together with great momentum. If they didn't put down the pole and retract the net in time, they might have gotten a chance to escape. Yiro looked at the birds circling around the net, unwilling to leave, with a hint of pity in her eyes. She cultivated her body, her mind, and her Tao. In her eyes, all joy could be magnified infinitely, and all sorrow could also be magnified infinitely. Every cry of these young birds tore a deep hole in her heart. He felt pain. Fang Yan, Yiro suddenly shouted. Fang Yan had been standing next to Yiro, asking, "What is it? Can you give them to me?" Yiro asked. Fang Yan smiled and said, "They were originally meant for you. Just wait until they're done, you don't have to worry about them. Although you're a woman, they're better at this than you are. Once they're cooked, you'll be in charge of wiping them out." "I mean, give them to me now," Yiro said. Fang Yan was a little surprised, since he knew Yiro when he was very young. This proud woman had never asked him for anything. Of course, she didn't ask anyone for anything either. But Fang Yan often asked her for something, such as when Yiro pressed him to the ground with the dragon spine lock. He would ask Yiro to be lenient. Fang Yan's expression also became serious, saying, "Okay. I can give them to you now. You can do whatever you want with them." The pole was still put down and the net was retracted. Unfortunately, all of the wild birds had been released. Looking at the birds circling in the sky or flying away, Yiro's face bloomed with a happy smile. She raised her slender and delicate neck, her soft short hair automatically slanted to the back. Her eyebrows were beautiful and her facial features were delicate and flawless. She was as beautiful as the ice spirit in this snow mountain. She waved her hand and said, "Goodbye." "Goodbye." Zhu Xian waved her arms and yelled, "Goodbye." Li Xiaotian yelled with his teeth clenched. Although he said goodbye, he showed a ferocious look that said, "Don't run away, let me bite you if you have the guts. Goodbye." Fang Yan looked at Yiro's beautiful side profile and said quietly in his heart. The violent Yiro in his heart was gone. Chapter 339. The sky was gray and the earth was white. The birds flew away, leaving only a few feathers as a sign of their existence. Since the birds had flown away, there would be no lunch today. Looking at Li Xiaotian and Zhu Xian's pitiful expressions, Fang Yan was full of sympathy for them. He said aloud, "I've said it before, this is a very inhumane thing to do. What's so delicious about birds? They're small and skinny. If you want to eat them, we can go to the mountain to hunt pheasants and rabbits, catch a few handfuls of chili and make a big pot of stew. We can eat as much as we want. There's plenty of meat and we can eat until we're full. Isn't that great?" Li Xiaotian and Zhu Xian were trembling with anger. If it weren't for Yiro, they would have thrown the black leather gloves on their hands at Fang Yan and fought with him. They knew they couldn't defeat Yiro. When did you ever say that this was an inhumane thing to do? Weren't you the one who said you wanted to hunt birds the most? You were the commander-in-chief of the operation and we were all your lackeys, okay? What's so delicious about birds? Who was the one who thought they tasted good and dragged us out to hunt birds? You should be careful when you speak. Hearing Fang Yan's words, Yiro's eyes lit up again. She said, "Hunt wild rabbits?" Everyone looked at Yiro carefully for fear that she would ask for something else. Li Xiaotian and the others didn't have to answer, but Fang Yan had to. After all, Yiro was his guest. He looked at Yiro with a smile and said, "Yes. Many pheasants and rabbits come out to play after it snows. The snow is too deep, so they are not as agile as before. Especially the rabbits whose legs are short, Can't jump out of the snow holes once they fall into. We used to go up the mountain to catch them. After catching them, we can make dry-fried chicken or dry-fried rabbit with extra seasonings and chili. We eat them with a mouthful of wine and a piece of meat sweating profusely. Can we catch them now? Yiro pretended not to see the painful expressions of Li Xiaotian and Zhu Ziden and asked. Fang Yan looked back at Li Xiao and Zhu Ziden and the others in a friendly manner and said, "It should be, okay?" Yiro waved her hand and said straightforwardly, "Let's go hunt wild rabbits." Therefore Li Xiaotian, Zhu Ziden and the others looked even more miserable. Li Xiaotian pulled Fang Yan's arm aside and said in a low voice, "Brother, please do us a favor and let us go. You went to pick up girls and we followed you. Besides, when we catch some wild chickens and hares later, Miss Yi will become soft-hearted and ask us to release all the wild animals. What will we eat then? I've only eaten 2 birds for the whole day. I'm so hungry after being tortured by you guys. You guys have fun, shall we go back first? I want to let you go, but as you can see, this matter is not up to me." Fang Yan smiled helplessly. "But I can promise you that I won't let go of any pheasants or hares that we catch later. If she dares to do such a thing again, I'll slap her." "How dare she?" Li Xiaotian stared at Fang Yan with disdain and said, "You have to be able to beat her first. You were beaten up by her, who would believe you? That was before. Now she's no match for me at all. When I'm in a bad mood, I drag her out and beat her up. She doesn't even dare to fight back. Hurry, tell the brothers to prepare and show this inexperienced girl the strength of our Swallow Fort Pretty Men team." Pretty Men team was the name of the bird hunting team led by Fang Yan. At that time, there was an idol drama called Meteor Garden that was very popular. They got inspiration from this drama, so they chose this name. Originally, they wanted to copy the F4 group and call themselves F11. But as more and more members joined, they couldn't be F11 today and F12 tomorrow. That would be inconvenient for them to spread their fame. They had no choice but to change their name. The first 11 people who joined were pretty men, but those who joined later were not pretty men. It was not good for the unity of the team. "We really can't let them go this time," Li Xiaotian said worriedly. They had no sense of team honor at all. "We definitely won't let them go." "Then let's go," Li Xiaotian said, resigned to his fate. "I hope we didn't work for nothing this time." Wan Jing, who was sent away by Fang Yan to get the lotus leaf chili sauce, returned. He raised the big bag in his hand excitedly and said, "I've brought everything you wanted. Where are the birds?" Fang Yan glanced at him and said embarrassedly, "Wan Jing, please go back and get a pot." A rabbit and a chicken were cut into pieces and stir-fried in the big pot. Spices and handfuls of red chili were added, then shredded ginger and scallions were sprinkled over. When the meat broth in the pot was bubbling, the lid was lifted and the chopsticks were used to eat. Hot and spicy, then a big mouthful of the shadozi brewed by a small workshop in Swallow Fort. Even a god wouldn't trade that taste. Men always wanted to get beautiful women drunk when they met them. Li Xiaotian, Zhu Ziden and the others were no exception. However, Yiro's eyes became brighter and brighter as she drank, while Li Xiaotian, Zhu Ziden and the others became dumbfounded. Fang Yan didn't bother to remind them. He just ate the meat and drank the wine. When he was full, Li Xiaotian, Zhu Ziden and the others had already fallen asleep in the snow. Wan Jing looked at Yiro in surprise as if he had seen a ghost. He went back and got a barrel of shadozi. Now the barrel was empty. Li Xiaotian, Zhu Ziden and the others drank 5 liters while Yiro drank 4 to 5 liters. Does this woman have a limit to her alcohol tolerance? Wan Jing looked at Fang Yan and said, "Why didn't you remind me?" "I did," Fang Yan said, feeling wronged. "Why did you remind me?" "I didn't even dare to drink with her," Fang Yan said. "You won't die if you don't ask for it." Puff. Wan Jing also threw up on the ground. He didn't know whether it was because he had drunk too much or because of Fang Yan's anger. Originally, he also wanted to beat Yiro with Zhu Ziden and the others, but he stopped when he found the situation was not right. So he ended up half dead. Leaving the drunkards to Wan Jing, Fang Yan accompanied Yiro back to the village. "Did you play like this before?" Yiro asked. "Yes." Fang Yan nodded. "There are many games. You only saw the tip of the iceberg today. Seems you had a good life before?" Yiro said with emotion. Compared with Fang Yan, there was nothing to say about her childhood. It was okay. Before I met you, Fang Yan realized he said something wrong. He quickly changed the topic and said, "Is the game good today? If you want to eat, we can come over anytime. It tastes good." Yi Rou nodded and said, "Before you met me, what about after you met me?" "Before I met you, my life was very happy. After I met you, my life is very fulfilling." Fang Yan said seriously. "Fulfilling is one level higher than being happy. Life can't be silly and happy all the time. Fulfilling makes one's life complete." "Do you really think so?" Yi Rou glanced at Fang Yan and asked. She didn't believe Fang Yan's nonsense. "Of course." Fang Yan nodded very seriously. "If I didn't meet you, would I have the heart of Tai Chi? Why don't Li Xiaotian and Zhu Xian have it?" Yi Rou wanted to hit him again. She said in a low voice, "That's because they don't practice Tai Chi. That's why I said they will never have the heart of Tai Chi," Fang Yan said with a smile. "If I didn't have the heart of Tai Chi, how could I defeat Xianxia military department? How could I become the inspirational role model that every parent chooses to teach their children? How could I become the idol in the eyes of countless boys and girls in Swallow Dock?" When Fang Yan was bragging about himself, he met Bai Xiu and Phoenix, who were strolling in the snow. Bai Xiu and Phoenix walked over from the opposite bank of the Stone River. Bai Xiu's hair was still loose and he was wearing a white robe. The difference was that he was wearing black cloth shoes today instead of running barefoot in the snow like last time. Phoenix was wearing a purple windbreaker, high-heeled leather boots, and a plush hat on her head. She looked arrogant and charming. It seemed that she had dressed up carefully. It was unknown what Bai Xiu said, but the Phoenix giggled and looked very happy. When their eyes met, the four of them stopped. Phoenix looked at Fang Yan while Bai Xiu looked at Yi Rou thoughtfully. "Are you guys dating?" Phoenix asked Fang Yan. "Guess." Fang Yan said. He didn't dare to say yes and didn't want to say no, so he could only use this kind of rhetorical question. After all, he couldn't act like a loser in front of his first love. Phoenix looked Fang Yan up and down, then looked at Yi Rou and said with a smile, "I guess not." "Why not?" "No reason," Phoenix said. It doesn't feel like you guys are a couple." Fang Yan sneered. He put his hand around Yi Rou's waist and said, "Do I need to prove anything to you?" In the TV series that Fang Yan watched, this kind of plot often appeared. In order to get revenge on her ex-boyfriend, the female lead would bring a man who was better or more affectionate than her ex-boyfriend to a party. At the party, the ex-boyfriend would snort at the female lead's behavior and say, "Don't use such a cheap trick to deceive me, I won't fall for it. There's no relationship between you two. You brought him here just to make me angry, right?" Then in a rage, the female lead would rush up to hug and kiss the male lead. Of course, the female lead would usually kiss the male lead in the TV series. Fang Yan felt that he was the female lead, who accidentally met his first love. So he wanted to use another woman to prove that even if you don't want me, there's someone else who wants me. And now the person who wants me is better, prettier and more violent than you. "Do I need to prove anything to you?" Fang Yan said. As he spoke, he put his hand around Yi Rou's waist as he wished. It had to be said that Yi Rou's waist was very thin. Of course she was thin, so her waist was naturally not fat. The most important thing was that it felt very good. There was no excess fat and it wouldn't be shriveled into a pile of bones. Oily and smooth, soft and tender. Among the women he had touched, she could be ranked in the top 3. Of course, Fang Yan had only touched 3 women in total. Why is my nose bleeding? What's going on? Chapter 340. A smear of bright red sprayed out. It was so unique and dazzling in the snow. When Fang Yan saw that his nose was bleeding, his body also flew up. He flew backward in the air, only then did he realize that he had been hit. Bang! His body fell heavily onto the ground, creating a V-shaped pit on the flat snowy ground. The snowflakes splashed and then returned to the snowy plain. Fang Yan stared blankly at the vast and lonely sky, thinking that the plot shouldn't have developed like this. According to the story extension in the TV series, Yi Rou should be slightly surprised and full of expectation at this moment. When he kissed her, her eyes widened and she fell into a state of stupor. Usually when this scene appeared, the picture would freeze and the story of the episode would end. Start singing and calling out subtitles. At the beginning of the next episode, the male lead would pull the female lead and run. They would run on a long bridge or a beautiful riverbank. They ran and ran until they were out of breath and could no longer run. The male and female protagonists lay on the railings or their knees, panting heavily. The female protagonist asked why they were doing this. The male protagonist impatiently asked, "What's wrong with me?" The female protagonist said, "What do you want?" The male protagonist said, "What do you want?" The female protagonist was very angry and turned to leave. The male protagonist did not try to hold her back. Why did she hit people? Fang Yan couldn't understand this question. You hit me in front of my first love and her boyfriend. Don't you know it hurts my pride? You can't even bear to eat a bird. Am I less than a bird? Phoenix's damned smile appeared in front of him. She crouched down and looked at Fang Yan, who was lying in the snow, and said, "Are you all right? What do you think?" Fang Yan said snappily, "I'm already like this. I'm injured both inside and out. Can I still get better?" "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked you that question," the Phoenix said apologetically. The question she was referring to was, "Are you guys on a date?" If she didn't ask, Fang Yan wouldn't have to deliberately prove anything to her. If Fang Yan didn't prove anything, he wouldn't have been beaten. Fang Yan felt as if someone had stabbed him in the chest again. Wouldn't such an apology be another slap in the face? He grimaced in pain and grabbed a snowball to wipe the blood off his nose. "What does this have to do with you?" Phoenix gave Fang Yan a strange look and said, "Is it not because I asked you that question, that you are lying here?" "Of course not." Fang Yan denied. "How could I be beaten just because you asked me a question? Is there such a barbaric and violent person in this world? Then why?" "Because I held her waist." "Aren't you a couple?" "It has nothing to do with whether we are a couple or not. It's just because I held her waist," Fang Yan said stubbornly. Can't couples hug each other's waist? Who says that couples can hug each other's waist? I haven't even seen Bai Xiu hug your waist. Fang Yan's thought process was very contradictory, but the logic was very simple. I was beaten not because we aren't a couple but because I held her waist. If that's the case, wouldn't it look better? Young people still care a lot about their dignity. So that's how it is. Phoenix squinted her eyes and smiled. She took out a handkerchief from her pocket and handed it to him. "Do you want me to wipe it for you?" "No need," Fang Yan said. "Your boyfriend will be jealous." "Then should I help you up?" "No need," Fang Yan said. "I want to lie here and calm down." "Then we'll go first," Phoenix said. "I won't see you out," Fang Yan said. He was lying in the snow. This position was quite comfortable. He didn't want to get up. If he got up, he would have to see Bai Xiu's face. He really didn't want to see Bai Xiu's face right now. Phoenix walked in front of Yi Ro and said, "He took you to eat bird lotus leaves?" "Yes." "He took you to the bamboo forest to catch birds." "What are you trying to say?" Yi Ro raised her slender eyebrows. "He took you to eat pheasant and rabbit stew and drink the strongest shadozi?" Phoenix giggled and said, "He used to treat me like this too. Later on, I found out that this is the standard way for boys from Swallow Fort to pick up girls." Phoenix waved her hand at Yi Ro and said, "We still want to go for a walk. Your boyfriend, we'll leave him to you." And so, Phoenix and Bai Xiu continued to stroll towards their destination. The sound of laughter scared away the forest birds and the colorful snowflakes. Fang Yan looked at the dancing snowflakes in front of him and thought, "The weather is so beautiful when it snows." Ka ka ka. Yi Ro walked in front of Fang Yan. She stood on a high place and looked down at Fang Yan, who was lying on the ground. "He's right." Fang Yan took the initiative and told the truth. Eating bird lotus leaves, catching sparrows in a net, making pheasant and rabbit stew, and drinking the strongest shadozi, fishing by cutting ice, bathing in hot springs, ambushing from 10 sides and flying kites. These are the standard ways for boys from Swallow Fort to pick up girls. When Li Xiaotian was in college, he brought his girlfriend back. We played these games with him. Wan Jing used these games to bring back several girlfriends. I've also brought Phoenix to experience it. Swallow Fort belongs to Yanjing, but it's far away from the bustling capital. We don't have an arcade to play games or a cinema to watch movies. We don't have a KTV to sing in or a bar to dance in. We only have these little games that we created, which we think are the best. When you like someone, you want to bring what you think is the best to her. Li Xiaotian was like that, so he brought his girlfriend to Swallow Fort. Later they broke up and Li Xiaotian took us to the place where he kissed his girlfriend for the first time and drank for the whole afternoon. Although Ruan Jing looks ordinary, he's the Casanova among us. All the skills we know about chasing girls were taught by him. He knows what girls like, and he also knows what kind of feeling girls like, so he can bring back one girl after another that he likes. The girls in the city often go to bars, KTV, arcade and cinema, so it's quite refreshing to experience the farm culture of Swallow Fort occasionally. Your brother Yi Fengxing is also a member of our team. He has always liked Bailey Lu's little sister, Bailey Lianxin, and has also tried to use these games to win the girl's heart. We don't know why, but he hasn't succeeded, maybe because he's too fat. We've been asking him to lose weight, but we didn't expect him to get fatter and fatter. At that time, the person I hated the most was you, and the person I liked the most was Phoenix. I liked her the first time I saw her. She came in her father's military car wearing a little white dress. Standing in the middle of a group of soldiers, she was like a little princess being protected. She was very beautiful and also very arrogant. But her beauty and arrogance didn't repel people 1,000 miles away, and it was very easy for people to get close to her. She saw us peeping at her from a distance, but she wasn't angry. She even waved at us and said, "Do you want to eat chocolate with me?" You see, she conquered all of us with one sentence. She's obviously the same age as us, but everyone is willing to listen to her. When you're in a bad mood, she can tell at a glance and she will chat with you. After a while, you'll find that you've already forgotten why you were in a bad mood just now. When you're injured, she will rush to treat you. She's very good at bandaging. It's said that her mother is a doctor in the military hospital, and she learned bandaging skills from her mother since she was young. She was also very generous. She often gave us good food that we had never seen before. She even gave us all kinds of guns, bows and arrows, as well as the good cigarettes that people gave to her father and the good wine that her grandfather kept in his private collection. She treated us very well. The weather was cold and the snow was extremely warm. Fang Yan was lost in some kind of thoughts, and he didn't even notice the change in Yi Ro's eyes. At that time I often fought with people. I also often fought with you. Every time I was injured or defeated by you, I would go to her for help to treat. Even sometimes when I won, I would try to find some wounds on my body. That way I could listen to her comforting words and watch her bandage me. She was never impatient, and I also think that was the happiest time of my life. I wasn't the only one who liked her. Bai Xiu liked her, Bailey Lu liked her, and Yi Fengxing used to like her. A group of boys around us all liked her. So the competition was particularly fierce, and each of us exhausted our efforts and used all our means. For us at that time, it might be the most important thing in our lives. Fang Yan felt a little sour in his nose, and his chest was depressed and uncomfortable. He was lying on the snow, and in addition to the thin layer of clothes on his body, there were only the tiny snowflakes in the distant sky on his body. However, Fang Yan just felt very uncomfortable in his heart, as if something was going to tear his chest and break out of his body. He wouldn't understand that it was an emotion. That emotion had a very common name: lovelorn. For a teenager, being lovelorn might be an important thing that would affect his life. At that time, Fang Yan didn't know how to release this kind of negative emotion because with his character he would only bury it deep in his heart and pretend that nothing had happened. But today it jumped out without any warning. It was honest under the sky, in the snow, and under the gaze of Yi Ro. Chapter 341. He always talked about the things he was afraid of in a joking tone and always did the things he cared about in a free and easy manner. However, that was just a thin and fragile disguise. It was like the sugar coating on the outside of a pill. The sugar coating melted in the mouth, and then there was the deep bitterness that made people's hair stand on end and tremble. As if the bitterness had reached the depths of the soul. Everyone thought that Fang Yan was a happy person, and Yi Ro was no exception. In Yi Ro's eyes, her opponent of many years was playful, funny, persistent, patient, despicable, diligent, shameless, unwilling to suffer losses, and desperate to take advantage of others. Fang Yan was the most peculiar and elusive person she had ever met. If he had the impulse to write books such as On 32 Ways of Being Cheap, Cheap is a Life Attitude, Fang Yan's view of cheap, do you want to be a cheap person? Do you want to be a cheap person? Books like Wuxia's Self-Cultivation of the Cheap God would definitely sell well and lead to a trend. Sometimes Yi-Ro even thought that Fang Yixing, a gentle and old-fashioned bookworm, and Lu Wan, a well-educated and well-mannered hostess, how could they have such an unusual child? However, today Fang Yan had subverted all Yi-Ro's understanding of him. Proud, pure, playful, sensitive, and childishness. He lay motionless in the snow, his eyes sorrowful as he looked at the empty sky. Filled with emotion, he narrated the process of him and the phoenix getting to know each other. Even though the years were ruthless, she could still hear the unwillingness hidden in his words. Every teenager thought he was the best teenager. Why did she choose someone else instead of him? Every teenager thought he was the most trustworthy teenager. Why did she fall in love with someone else but give up him? Yi-Ro's little face slightly twisted and her eyebrows wrinkled, as if her mood also became sad. She wanted to say something but she didn't say anything in the end. Fang Yan was lying down and she was standing up. She looked down at the changes in his emotions and the faint red light in the corner of his eyes. "I just want to treat you to a meal," Fang Yan said. "It was the most sumptuous way I thought I could think of. I didn't think so much. I never thought that because I invited Phoenix and Li Xiaotian's girlfriends, I wouldn't be able to bring you here. If that's the reason you want to beat me up, let's begin." "What is fishing through ice?" Yi-Ro asked. Asking this question made her feel relaxed, and even the annoyance between her eyebrows was relieved. These questions were really suffocating her. "What?" Fang Yan widened his eyes and stared at Yi-Ro. He felt that he couldn't keep up with Yi-Ro's thoughts. It was too exciting. "And the ambush from all sides. What's that? Bathing in a hot spring, flying a kite. Are these more fun than catching birds in the bamboo forest?" Yi-Ro continued to ask. Yi-Ro was very dissatisfied with Fang Yan's silence. She said, "Can't you bring people to play these games? If you don't want to say it, Yi Fengxing should know, right?" "You're not angry at all?" Fang Yan asked. "Angry? Why should I be angry?" Yi-Ro asked. "What Phoenix said, what does it have to do with me?" Yi-Ro asked back. "But you hit my nose," Fang Yan said. "Didn't you hit my nose because you were angry?" "I hit your nose because I was angry." Yi-Ro raised her slender eyebrows out of habit again and explained very seriously, "Your nose is bleeding and my anger is gone." "What happened after that?" "What happened after that?" Fang Yan couldn't help grinning. "Yes, what happened after that?" Phoenix misunderstood that he took Yi-Ro to catch birds in the bamboo forest to eat and drink shodatsi with these standard tricks to pick up girls. But she didn't know that Yi-Ro didn't have such ideas at all. Yi-Ro simply thought it was fun to catch birds in the bamboo forest. She simply thought that the pheasant and hare stew were delicious. She just thought that shodatsi was delicious. Shodatsi, which had been frozen for a while, was even better. The liquid was cold, but the alcohol's clarity made people's bodies burn. The feeling of ice and fire kept hitting the mouth and stomach buds, as well as every inch of muscles and skin, giving people a feeling of madness and tearing that they had never experienced before. That was all. What did it have to do with love between men and women? How could such a proud woman like Yi-Ro fall in love with a man like him? As she said, she was angry because Fang Yan touched her waist. She punched Fang Yan, and when she saw Fang Yan's nose was bleeding, her anger disappeared. Just like before when Fang Yan offended her and she hit Fang Yan, this punch was no different from the punch before. Just because Fang Yan did something wrong, this was Fang Yan's punishment. As for the words spoken by the Phoenix wanted to incite a conflict and emotional rift between the two of them. This was truly a huge joke. Without feelings, how could there be conflict? No love. Where was the crack? Phoenix spent a lot of effort only to do such a useless thing. It was really ridiculous. Fang Yan laughed loudly and his mouth was full of laughter. Wind poured in, snow fell, and an emotion more sorrowful than heartbreak also drilled in. "They don't love me." Fang Yan climbed out of the snow, patted the snow off his body and said, "Ambush on all sides is also a kind of food. Big fish and tofu are stewed in the pot, and then there are pot stickers on the edge of the pot. Generally, one pot can stick 8 pot stickers, so it looks like an ambush on all sides. 8 pieces of dough lying there. If not called ambush on all sides, what else can it be called? Kite in the sky is more fun." However, he didn't know why, but he felt a trace of regret in his heart. He kept feeling that something was missing. What was it that was missing? Fang Yan thought hard and finally figured it out. He forgot to ask Yi Ro about the problems he encountered when practicing the heart of Tai Chi. It seemed that he had to make another appointment tomorrow. At most, he would treat her to an ambush from all sides. Based on today's experience, she was quite easy to bribe. Yi Ro walked straight into the warm room in the backyard without being stained by the snow. After the arrival of winter, she lived in the warm room to accompany the elder ancestor. The elder ancestor was sitting on the pit and taking a nap. Seeing Yi Ro coming back, he squinted his eyes and smiled, saying, "Did you have fun with the boy from the Fong family?" "No," Yi Ro said. In front of her elder ancestor, she didn't need to hide anything. She couldn't hide it either. "What's wrong?" The elder ancestor became energetic and sat up a little. He asked, "How did that boy bully you? He can't beat you, so he can't bully you even if he wants to." She had lived for too long and nothing was new. He had to find some fun. It was also a good way to kill time to understand the emotional state of the younger generation. Therefore, the elder ancestor was very active in these things. "He is an idiot," Yi Ro said with anger in her eyes. It could be seen that she was really angry. Chapter 342. Old Ancestor also knew that Yi Ro was really angry. Because when she was angry, and when she was not angry, she was not angry. She disliked disguise and hiding the most, so she didn't need to do this kind of boring thing. Seeing that Yi Ro was angry, Old Ancestor felt it was more interesting. She patted the place next to her and said, "Come on, tell me why that guy is an idiot." Yi Ro hesitated and didn't know whether she should tell the reason why she was angry. Old Ancestor was a little unhappy and said, "You have no conscience. How do I usually treat you? Why do you treat me like this? Can't you even listen to my words?" Yi Ro had to sit next to Old Ancestor and told some of the things she and Fang Yan experienced when they went out. Old Ancestor laughed and said, "This guy is really an idiot. It's appropriate to call him an idiot. What a stupid thing he did. He looks smart, but why doesn't he understand women's mind at all?" Old Ancestor also thought that Fang Yan was quite an idiot. Phoenix questioned the relationship between Fang Yan and Yi Ro. Why did he rush to prove it to her? "You hugged Yi Ro and said that she was your girlfriend. What did you think of her? What did you think Yi Ro was? She was your capital to show off to your first love? Or a prop to accompany you to act in front of your first love?" Either one was not what Yi Ro needed and liked. He was Yi Ro. He was Yi Ro. If you like her, you like her. If you don't like her, you don't like her. Friends were friends and girlfriends were girlfriends. No disguise, no exaggeration. Frank, white and clean. Besides, you were so anxious to prove it. You couldn't prove that Yi Ro was your girlfriend, but it only proved that you cared about Phoenix's attitude. You cared about Phoenix's attitude, but you ignored Yi Ro's attitude. How could Yi Ro not be angry? Thinking that Fang Yan dared to treat her as a substitute, Yi Ro couldn't suppress her anger. He wanted to beat the crap out of him. If she didn't feel sorry for him lying in the snow and telling the story of a lovelorn, she thought she would really do that. She hesitated for a long time and wanted to ask, "Do you want to die?" In the end, the question that came out of his mouth was, "What is ice fishing?" Which did not require any technical content. He was such a smart woman. How could she not understand what it meant to fish from the ice? The funny thing was that the idiot actually explained to her all the way, and his expression was so serious. The great ancestor held Yi Ro's hand, laughing so hard that she gasped for breath. She said, "Oh my son, my little girl has never been bullied like this before. That guy, if he dares to come here again, I'll break his legs." "What did he do?" Fong Mansion. In the living room. Fang Yan said proudly to his mother Lu Wan, "We had a good chat. We caught birds together, ate, drank and even took a walk back." I sent her to her doorstep. When Fang Yan and Yi Ro made an appointment to take a walk in the snow, all eyes in Swallow Dock were attracted to them. Everyone knew that the Fang family and the Yi family were not on good terms. The annual martial arts competition between the two families was the best proof. Even better proof was that the little girl of the Yi family, Yi Ro, had never shown mercy to the Fang family's Fang Yan. But this time, when Fang Yan suddenly came back, he suddenly visited the Yi family with gifts and asked Yi Ro out for a walk, which attracted many people's guesses. What kind of show was this? The Yi family naturally paid attention to it. As soon as Fang Yan came back, he was pulled over by his mother for questioning. Did you kowtow to the great ancestor? Lu Wan asked with uncertainty. Yes, I did. Fang Yan said. The great ancestor is eating cucumbers. Seems that he has good teeth. Miss Yi, why did she agree to go out for a walk with you? Fang Yan was stunned and thought, my mother doesn't believe in her son's charm. Isn't it normal for me to ask a little girl out for a walk? What's there to doubt? Maybe it's because we have a good relationship. Fang Yan said. She's beaten me up for so many years. He treats me differently from others. That's true. Lu Wan nodded. You really didn't fight this time? I didn't fight. Fang Yan had to repeat this sentence again and said, I went to the Yi family to thank them. Why did I fight? After today's conversation, my relationship with Yi Ro has improved by leaps and bounds. She is a little different from what I knew before. Fang Yan thought of her sad expression when she saw the flock of birds desperately hitting the net and those young birds refused to leave for a long time. He said, she is very kind. He touched his nose that was still hurting and added, of course most of the things we know are the same. She is still as brutal and violent as before. For some reason she likes to beat people. Fang Yixing pretended to walk into the living room by accident. He glanced at Fang Yan and asked, did you see the great uncle Fang? Yes, Fang Yan said. The great uncle Fang his father mentioned was the eldest of the Yi family's 3 tigers, Yi Daowen. The eldest was dedicated to cultivation and his skills were unfathomable. The second eldest, Yi Daoxian, worked in the military and was a very powerful senior official in the General Staff Headquarters. The third eldest, Yi Daoling, was mainly engaged in economic research. He was a core figure in the Yanhuang Kingdom's think tank. This was the origin of the Yi family's 3 tigers and the reason why the Yi family had a high status in Swallow Dock. Sanhu was an extremely filial person. Sanhu's father and uncles were also filial people. Therefore the great ancestor was like an ancestor in the Yi family. Usually no one objected to what she said. She doted on Yi Ro. Yi Ro was the pearl of the Yi family. Of course, even if she didn't dote on Yi Ro was still the pearl of the Yi family. The title of the number 1 of the younger generation in Neijiang was very beneficial to the Yi family. She had achieved so much at such a young age. Who knew how far she would go in the future? What did he say? Fang Yixing asked. We chatted for a while. He told me to go in and kowtow to the great ancestor. I went in, Fang Yan said with a smile. Of course he skipped some steps in the middle. He took the initiative to ask you to kowtow to the great ancestor? A light flashed in Fang Yixing's eyes. Yes, Fang Yan nodded and said. Fang Yixing smiled with relief and said, you should visit the old man sometimes. You should also ask Miss Yi. She is more powerful than you and she entered that realm earlier than you. She will be of great help to you. Fang Yan nodded seriously and said, I will. Fang Yixing knew that his son really didn't need his advice. He took a book and walked into the study again, walking briskly. Fang Yan looked at Lu Wan and said with a smile, I'm going to see the old drunkard. I want to see if he has woken up. Lu Wan slapped Fang Yan's head and said, how can you call him the old drunkard? I'm used to it, Fang Yan said with a smile. If I don't call him the old drunkard, he probably won't be used to it. Lu Wan sighed softly and said, he has been living too hard. I'll ask the kitchen to make some dishes and send them over. You can drink with him. Perhaps it was because the land in Swallow Dock was not worth much money, but every family and household in Swallow Dock lived in a large courtyard. The courtyard was divided into the front yard and the backyard. The front yard was small and refined while the backyard was wide and dense. Some of the backyards were like a maze, with many important or very unimportant people living there. There was an independent small courtyard near the back door of Fang Yan's backyard. That small courtyard was the old drunkard's residence. Before he got close, the smell of wine had already hit his nose. The smell of wine was mixed with the cold air and transmitted into his body through his nostrils. His heart and lungs were filled with the strong smell of shadozi. The courtyard was filled with big jars and the jars were filled with shadozi. The old drunkard only drank shadozi and he only drank the shadozi that he brewed himself. Fang Yan asked him the reason, but he said that he had no money to buy it. Fang Yan didn't believe his nonsense. No matter how poor the Fang family was, They could not afford to buy Shaozi that he drank more than 10 kilograms or dozens of kilograms a day. He must be afraid that the Shaozi outside was formaldehyde mixed with water, which would cause his body to be poisoned. Fang Yan once again realized that the problem of food safety could not be ignored. Even these martial arts masters were afraid of being poisoned. The door of the courtyard was not closed and the door had never been closed. Everyone could enter but few people were willing to enter. Entering was the rule of the old drunkard. Of course he only drank with the people he liked. This was also the rule of the old drunkard. Therefore only a few people such as Fang Yan Yiro and the hero and hero could enter the courtyard in the end. Fang Yan pushed the door and walked in. A tall figure was standing in front of the wine jar, stirring the liquid in it slowly with a spoon. Bursts of wine fragrance came out with the intoxicating smell of food and alcohol. The man was wearing a loose robe of indistinguishable color, and his long hair was loose on his shoulders. His figure was thin, but it did not make people feel that he was frail. He was not wearing shoes or socks and stood barefoot in the accumulated snow in the courtyard. The loose robe with big sleeves, the barefoot drinking wine, the long hair draped over his shoulders, and the cultured and refined man. These were the iconic characteristics of the inner Jianghu's #1 Mo Qingdi. The people of Swallow Dock all knew that the reason why Bai Xiu dressed like that was to imitate Mo Qingdi. Because Mo Qingdi was Bai Xiu's idol. Many people said that Bai Xiu had already grasped 70% of Mo Qingdi's essence. But Fang Yan, who understood Mo Qingdi, felt that Bai Xiu only had the appearance but not the spirit. Mo Qingdi's every move was casual and natural. But Bai Xiu's words and actions always gave people a feeling of bashfulness and stiffness. Of course this could not be ruled out because Fang Yan had always been hostile to Bai Xiu. "You're here?" the old drunkard asked. "I'm coming," Fang Yan answered. This was the usual question and answer he would have with the old drunkard every time he came. "I'll treat you to a drink," the old drunkard said. He lifted the spoon in his hand and a silver river rose from the big jar, rushing toward Fang Yan. The wine fragrance was heavy and the knife intent was heavy. Sometimes he really was as sharp as a knife. Fang Yan's expression became solemn. Chapter 343. Fang Yan didn't dare to underestimate Mo Qingdi. No one dared to underestimate Mo Qingdi either. Even though his current name was Old Drunkard, everyone called him Old Drunkard and they even forgot his original name. With a casual flick of a spoon he could toss up a silver river. The silver river was like a silver dragon, condensing into a solid whole. It soared out of the vat and charged at Fang Yan. This was the most barbaric charge, so barbaric that it didn't require any technique. And because of the strong alcohol smell in the burning knife, this silver dragon was filled with the tyranny of a dragon and the killing intent of a knife. Dragons were the most powerful and arrogant creatures in the world. Those who stood in their way would die and those who stood in their way would perish. Although this was a wine dragon and although its strength was greatly reduced compared to the truth, it still had the power to destroy insignificant humans. Boom! The dragon's head slammed into Fang Yan. That small silver dragon opened its bloody mouth as if it wanted to swallow Fang Yan whole. Whoosh! The Taiji heart spun and the Taiji realm unfolded naturally. Even Fang Yan's subconscious felt that he was in danger, and his body automatically reacted. In the Taiji realm, this silver dragon was even clearer, and its momentum was even more ferocious. Fang Yan could clearly see the crystal-clear water droplets. These countless violent water droplets formed this water dragon, singing a passionate battle song, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws in preparation for battle. Fang Yan stretched out a finger. That finger didn't block the dragon's head, because the impact of the dragon's head would fracture or break his finger. His finger pointed at the dragon's spine in the middle of the dragon's body. The rebound force of the dragon's spine was astonishing, almost bouncing off his finger. Fang Yan was very stubborn, and forcibly pierced a large hole in the dragon's spine. Slashing the dragon's spine. Hit the snake where it hurts, slashing the dragon's spine. Bang! The silver dragon split into two and the energy in the middle was no longer connected. It couldn't support the entire silver dragon and the dragon's body exploded. As the rain fell, Fang Yan opened his mouth and drank the wine that splashed over. "Good wine," Fang Yan praised loudly. Everything has been removed, only wine and poetry remain. How can you drink without a vessel? Mo Qingdi raised his hand and slapped the vat. The wine vat that was half the height of a man under his feet was lifted off the ground and smashed towards Fang Yan. Fang Yan took the plum blossom steps and stretched out one hand. Just as the wine jar was about to reach him, he took a step forward and slapped the edge of the wine port with his right hand. A majestic atmosphere came from above the wine jar, rejecting Fang Yan's guidance and control. This was not the gravity of the wine jar, but the residual flow of qi from Mo Qingdi's slap. Fang Yan slapped the vat with one hand and his body spun rapidly. His feet stepped on the 12 plum blossom palaces, and he spun the wine jar around like a spinning top. Hoo-hoo-hoo, the wind howled and the snow swirled. The green-robed youth carried the wine jar to show off his skills, heroic and unrestrained. When he felt that the old drunkard's slap on the wine jar had completely dissipated, Fang Yan had gained full control of the wine jar. Boom! Fang Yan suddenly raised the wine jar with one hand, and the wine inside the jar poured out like a sudden waterfall. Fang Yan opened his mouth and gulped. The wine flew out quickly and so did Fang Yan. No matter how fast he drank, it was not as fast as pouring the wine out of the jar. Thus, a large amount of wine was poured over Fang Yan's face, head, clothes and neck. His entire person became a drunkard. After taking a big gulp, Fang Yan finally felt satisfied, and casually threw the huge jar that weighed hundreds of pounds to the old drunkard. The old drunkard caught the jar and also took a big gulp. The difference was that he poured slowly and drank boldly. Not a single drop of wine spilled out and not a single drop was wasted. The old drunkard drank for a very, very long time. Fang Yan was also used to this way of drinking. Boom! The old drunkard reached out and the wine jar fell back to its original place. The two looked at each other and laughed. Fang Yan laughed happily and the old drunkard laughed happily. In one's life, having 2 or 3 bosom friends accompany you to drink and eat with you was the greatest joy. The stray cat in the corner was scared away, and the rat that stole the wine was startled. Even the fluttering snowflakes didn't dare to get close to him. From point to line, is this the evolved heart of Tai Chi? The old drunkard didn't look at Fang Yan and turned to walk back to the hut. He conveniently picked up a wine gourd from a corner, and after drinking a mouthful he sat down on the deck chair under the eaves. The deck chair was made of bamboo and because of excessive friction, its original color could no longer be seen. However, the body of the chair was shiny and it gave off an oily brilliance. It's not bad, right? Fang Yan said proudly. Before he had the heart of Tai Chi, mountains were still mountains and water was still water. In front of him was a green mountain and that was a green mountain. However, with the heart of Tai Chi, mountains weren't just mountains, but forests, rivers, rugged rocks, flowers blooming, birds chirping, tigers roaring and dragons roaring. That was the state Fang Yan was in before he ran away, and the old drunkard was very familiar with this. In the Battle of One Sword Peak, the life and death battle between Fang Yan and the Japanese sword god, the heart of Tai Chi changed again at the critical moment. If it was still a mountain, the forests and rivers he saw would become pictographic lines. The rugged rocks were the lines and the flowers blooming and birds chirping were also the lines. The lines were dynamic like an electronic map from the beginning to the end, allowing Fang Yan to clearly see the process of flowers blooming and withering. This was the upgraded heart of Tai Chi. The heart of Tai Chi had already developed to this stage. What was the next change? What would the next step of its upgrade be? Fang Yan didn't know. My heart of Tai Chi has improved, but my drinking capacity hasn't. The old drunkard took another sip of wine and said aloud. He could go without food for 3 days now, but he couldn't go without wine for a day. His heart was trapped in a mental barrier and his life was unbearable, which made him look very sad. It depends on who I'm competing with, Fang Yan said. Of course I can't compare with you and Yi Ro, but compared with those people outside, I'm also a general who always wins in drinking. It was impossible for the old drunkard to entertain him, so he ran into the house alone, found a 4-legged stool and put it next to the old drunkard. The two sat under the eaves, drinking, admiring the snow, and talking about Fang Yan's heart of Tai Chi. You're ahead of us. The old drunkard said softly. If he didn't quickly put his voice into his ears, it was very likely to be blown away by the wind. My heart of Tai Chi is a wasteland like a barren land. Not even a blade of grass grows, withered and cracked. The cracks are like mocking smiling faces. Apart from receiving mockery and despair, there is nothing to be gained. What you've experienced is something I've never experienced, and in the Fong family, there are only 2 people who can have the heart of Tai Chi. I don't have any experience to teach you, so you can only rely on yourself to explore. It's very difficult and dangerous. But I'm not worried about you at all. You think I'm talented? Fong Yan said with a smile. I mean, you're really lucky, the old drunkard said. After being beaten for 10 years, you were actually able to comprehend the heart of Tai Chi because of the sudden upgrade of the heart of Tai Chi. Such a humiliating thing like skipping class and running away became the object of praise and praised by countless people after coming back. They said that you've taken a different path. It really makes me blush to hear it. Fong Yan chuckled. No matter how the old drunkard attacked him, he felt that it was a compliment. Their relationship was like that of a teacher and a friend, and there were almost no secrets between them. Luck is also a kind of strength, Fong Yan said with a smile. Even the Japanese sword god was defeated by me. Who dares to say that I'm not strong enough? In the past, every time Yi Ro saw me she wanted to beat me up. Today I directly went to the Yi family to challenge them. Hey, guess what? No one in such a big Yi family dared to come out and fight me. Fong Yan shook his head gently and said, I'm lonely and seeking defeat. It's hard to find an opponent in Swallow Dock. The old drunkard knew what Fong Yan was thinking. He said this deliberately to provoke him. Unfortunately, if this kind of stimulation could make him regain his strength, why would he be so decadent? The heart of Tai Chi not only relied on hard practice, but also enlightenment. 10 years of practice was not as good as 1 night of enlightenment. This was the saying of Tai Chi. Success came from the heart of Tai Chi, and failure came from the heart of Tai Chi. The old drunkard continued to drink and didn't take Fong Yan's words seriously. He said, You can talk to Yi Ro about this matter. Maybe she can help you. I was going to talk to her about it today but I forgot, Fong Yan said. I heard that you asked her to take a walk to see the snow? Yes. I also treated her to a sumptuous lunch and drank your favorite shadozi, Fong Yan said with a proud face. We've now buried the hatchet, turned enemies into friends and let go of the hatred with a smile. Buried the hatchet? Turned enemies into friends? The old drunkard glanced at Fong Yan with his drunken eyes and said, The hatred is gone but the kindness is still there. I understand, Fong Yan said. I didn't know about this until I came back this time. It turns out that my grandfather went to the Yi family to provoke me every year when I competed with Yi Ro. What he said was too much. Who else would he hit if not you? She patiently beat me for 10 years. I naturally have to remember this 10 years of kindness. It's not patience. The old drunkard said. It's holding back the disgust. It's disgusting for anyone to do the same thing for 10 years. How could it be disgusting to witness the rise of a genius? I think she should be filled with a sense of accomplishment. Every time you're beaten to the point of crying for your mom and dad, crawling under tables and chairs, hugging your opponent's legs and begging for mercy, who would be filled with a sense of accomplishment from conquering such an opponent? I feel like you're insulting me, Fong Yan said. You're right, the old drunkard said. If it wasn't because I have something to ask of you, I would definitely challenge you, Fong Yan said fiercely. Then he looked at the old drunkard with a fawning expression and said, Senior, can I introduce an old friend to you? You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.